Happy holidays. Welcome to the 382nd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter and be super cool and awesome by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 to 45 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week, in case this wasn't enough. I just started looking back at The Amazing Spider-Man, going back from where I was at a while back when we were looking at it, the Stan Lee, John Romita Sr. era. So last week I did issue, 51? So it's like the Kingpin. And this is kind of cool because it's like the first time, we really see who the Kingpin is. And the other people, they're not taking him seriously. Even the guys that he's working with. And then we just see him kind of cut loose. Spider-Man doesn't know who this Kingpin is. Everyone thinks he's just a big tubby guy. And they're shown that that's not the case. So it's kind of, and just the John Romita art, oh my gosh, man, it's just so nice. Sometimes I do an off-of-mind random comic book topic, which I have one rolling around in the back of my mind that I haven't really done anything with, but it will be sometime soon. I don't know about this week. We shall see. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out a couple ways. You can go to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee, or 3, it's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck, or on patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Everything is gmanfromheck. You can also purchase some of these off my mind episodes for like the same price as one of the virtual cups of coffee, and every little bit helps support the show. All right, so this week, it's, obviously, I'm not going to go into details. It's been a crazy week, last week, before school, before the holidays, so lots of, tests and grading. I have to do report cards, and we're, cutting the semester here, even though it's not going to be balanced. So I got a lot going on, and, just last week trying to wrap things up, trying to, get everything I need to do in my classroom before, so I don't have to come back over, I may pop back in, who knows, we'll see. And then just dealing with everything is, as always, time just gets away from me. So we shall see how much I can cover this week. The movie feature, I think I may mention it last week, is going to be Carry On. So that's the Netflix movie with Taron Egerton and Justin Bateman. Really, really cool movie. So it was like last Friday, not this past Friday, the Friday before, in theaters. The only thing that came out was the Mufasa, the live-action Lion King prequel, which I haven't seen the regular Lion King live-action, and then Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which I still haven't seen Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm curious. I would like to watch it at some point, like if I can ever get some downtime and get caught up on stuff. So I do want to watch it, but I didn't go see it because I hadn't seen the second one. But, so apart from Carry On, you can hear about the latest Silo, and man, things are just getting so tense, and I don't know, what's going on. The books are out there, and I'm so tempted to go back, because I was listening to audiobook for the first one, and I stopped because the first book is like more than season 1, and I don't want to spoil things. We got a Star Wars Skeleton Crew, the 4th episode, so pretty cool, sort of revelations. I mean, nothing really major in the whole Star Wars lore, but just for the characters, and there's some big things. Oh my gosh, Cobra Kai, the 10th episode. So we're fine. I'm finally caught up with where we're at now. This episode was bonkers, man. It's ridiculous, but it was so nuts. And I'm pretty sure that there's still 5 more, that they extended it, and sometime in 2025 we'll get the final 5 episodes. Jeez. And then hopefully I'll be able to get to Creature Commandos episode 3, because right now so I'm behind, because episode 3 and 4, 4 just came out. This is going to be the iffy part, is will I be able to get to 3? Because as I record this, I'm going to be totally honest, because I want to be honest. I have not had a chance to watch Creature Commandos episode 3 yet. So it's going to be a scramble to try to get to that because, along with the last week of school and stuff like that, now we're starting to get into spend more time with family, which is awesome, which is great. And yeah, so spending more time means less time for me to just sit by myself recording, which is weird because I don't want to just ignore my family. And so we shall see. And if anything, with Cobra Kai ending next week, maybe next week I do the next episode 383. Maybe I would do Creature Commandos episode 4 and 5. But with this following week, we got all the holiday Christmas festivities, which is going to be more family time and more time I'm away from my house and everything like that. We'll see. But my guarantee is, because I know it seems like a lot of podcasts do like seasons. And I don't know if they just take breaks in between, which would be weird. I couldn't imagine doing that. And some shows I think just take a week off or whatever like that. I don't want to do that because of my personal. I want to do it every single week. I want to be able to say that I've done it nonstop since 2017. So my guarantee is a podcast every week. But maybe again, just to be realistic, I know you are all awesome, super supportive listeners, so I'm sure you're okay. It's a bummer if you're looking forward to something, but also the reality is maybe you're busy with family stuff too, and you don't have time to listen to as long of a podcast, or maybe the opposite. Maybe you're like, okay, I have time off of works, and whatever, my friends are busy or this or that, so I need something. I hope that's not necessarily the case. I hope everyone is totally cool and understanding if something gets kind of pushed aside. We'll see how it goes. Now, with the news, there was some news. I was kind of surprised. I was like, okay, because I have a feeling like next week there's not going to really be very much news. We'll see how it goes. The big, huge thing is Superman trailer finally came out. So the first time I saw it, I mean, it was cool and everything. I loved it, but and I'm going to be perfectly honest because, again, that's what I shut up. That's what I do. What really bothered me, and I think it was just me. I don't know if anyone else was bothered. I didn't see anyone comment about this. Everyone was gushing about it. Everyone's like, at James Gunn, thank you, just like tagging his name left and right, which that's another thing. But whatever. What really bothered me was the use of the John Williams, scores. Superman, the Christopher Reeve Superman theme. I feel like that, it's such an icon. It's such an amazing. It's that song, that music, just perfectly captures the Christopher Reeve Superman. It's perfect. And we've heard slight variations of that and everything because it's almost like. Yeah, it shouldn't just be Christopher Reeve's theme. It is Superman's theme. So often whenever I think of Superman, I think of that theme. But part of it was, what Richard Donner did and what Christopher Reeve did is they did such an amazing job. For the time and with the technology and where it was at, I mean, that was such a great movie. So now the way I kind of look at it is, we had Man of Steel, and I know a lot of people love Man of Steel. That's fine. I'm not going to make fun of you or whatever, knock you down or something like that. I thought it was a good movie, but I still stick to my words. My review is still out there. I felt it was not a Superman movie. I felt that some of the things that happened is not true to what I see as Superman's character. So yes, it's a movie. There could be variations. There could be differences. But, the main thing, Superman shouldn't kill. And, whatever. So we're not going to get into that. But, while we had this darker, Snyderverse universe where, things were darker, Batman's shooting people left and right in his Batplane or Batmobile, whatever. And, I have to admit, there were some cool moments, a couple here and there, or whatever, in the Snyder movies. But I think what really turns me off about just any of the Snyder movies is some of the very hardcore fan base. And I'm not saying that if you like the Snyderverse movies, that I'm talking about you. It's more like the Snyder Bros, and I don't even know if I'd go with the Snyder Army, maybe, but just some of them are just so obnoxious and just so like feeling like this sense of entitlement that like the characters are theirs. With the whole oh, DC should let Netflix buy the characters, the Snyderverse, so they can continue. But it's like, one, that would never happen. There's no way Netflix could even afford to buy. Why would that? Maybe, maybe they could be licensed and DC like, sure, pay us money and you can do this. But yeah, and the other thing is like the actors involved. Everyone kept saying like Henry Cavill, oh, give him, but he was doing like so many other things. And while he was, unfortunately, it seemed like he was like supportive of returning, I'm sure there's lots of moments where he was just like, while he may enjoy doing the movie and all that stuff, I'm sure he didn't. He's like, yes, I want to wear this, the harness and have to be in these uncomfortable moments and do all this. So I don't think anyone's like really like knocking on DC's doors. Like, when are we going to do another one? When are we going to do another one? They want to do it because it's a nice paycheck and there is a fan base, people supporting them. I just feel like there's just, I don't know, just so much other stuff that people don't realize. And I don't know the ins and outs and every little detail of how Hollywood works, but I feel like there's just so much that people don't realize that it's not that simple as just like, boom, let's do this. Like, there's so much paperwork, so much legal red tape and everything. So anyways, so we have this, I kind of had this bad taste after the Snyderverse. And it's kind of unfortunate because, like I said, a lot of people like those and, there was potential, but there's just a lot that just, it's gotten to the point where it's like, I don't want to go back and revisit those movies. I have no desire to watch them again just because I feel like so kind of gross with some of the comments and just how people are just like rude and just meanness and I drives me nuts when not just the Snyder fans, but when people start like trying to spam like other things, because it was like, here's like on Instagram, there's a Scooby-Doo movie coming out, release the Snyderverse, restore the Snyderverse, and it's like, this has nothing. So you're telling this person whose job it is to run the Warner Brothers social media, whatever, Instagram or whatever, or Scooby-Doo social media channel, and you're telling them, you're talking to them about Snyderverse, where they have absolutely nothing to do with that. And even if they told their supervisor, yeah, I got a lot of comments about Snyderverse, the supervisor doesn't have anything to do with it. No one is going to go and tell, hey, Jim Lee or whoever is in charge at the time, and now, Walter Hamada, whoever it was, they're not going to be like, oh, all these people comment on this Scooby-Doo post about the Snyderverse. No one's going to do that. And it's just, whatever. So let's move on. Well, so now we got a new Superman movie, and using the John Williams score, I almost feel like that's kind of like a not a cop out, but it's almost like taking the easy way out. You're just hitting that sense of nostalgia, and I feel like I'm spending too much time talking about this. But it's like, oh man, I love that song, and it sounds cool with being played on the electric guitar and whatever. But I just feel like, I don't know, I just feel like there should be a different theme, and maybe there will be in a movie. Maybe that was just used for the teaser trailer. I don't want to make any assumptions because I know that's possible, but it bothered me a little bit. But then I did show the trailer to a couple of my classes. I didn't show it to one class, a couple reasons. But seeing it again and seeing their reaction. But I guess the best thing. The thing that I absolutely love about the trailer, and I should talk about specifics, is so when was it? It was Thursday night. My daughter was out with friends and she came home late, and I was in the living room. I was like, "Hey, can I show you something?" So I throw it up on the TV, and she's watching the trailer. I was like, "Yeah, there's new," because she's not as in tune as she used to be. She's whatever, but she's still interested. So she's watching it, and she's totally glued to seeing Superman lying there, in the ditch all bloody and everything like that. And then the part he whistles, and when you see, and she's like, I just getting this smile starts forming on her face, and she's like, "Is that Crypto?" Because I didn't tell her that Crypto was going to be in a movie. If us that are so glued to all the news and everything, we knew about it. She didn't know about it, and I just see this smile because for the average person, even if you know who Crypto is, you wouldn't expect to see Crypto in a Superman movie because it's just like they wouldn't really necessarily go there, and they did. And so we see him, and then when you see him, like the leap he does, and it's like her heart melted, and because she loves Crypto, and it goes back to that Crypto animated series, which I love that series. It had like 2 seasons, had Crypto, had Streaky, had all these other like dogs and cats and whatever. They were supposed to release on DVD. I don't know if they ever did, which really bummed me out. And I think she watched the Dwayne Johnson Crypto, which I didn't like that as much, but it's still Crypto. So that was my favorite part of the trailer. Just the fact that Crypto's there and just seeing that smile on my daughter's face, it melted my heart to see that. So we see David Cornsweet as, I think that's how you say it, as Superman and as Clark Kent. And it's like, okay, and he does a good job. Seeing there's I've seen like some other pictures where as Clark, he's got this really bag, almost not really bag, but kind of baggy suit. And that's the important thing, is distinguishing between the two. It goes back. I forgot who I was talking to about it. Someone who wasn't as like knowledgeable as this, but just that scene in Superman where Christopher Reeve, where he's in Lois Lane's apartment, Clark wants to, Lois is in the other room because she's expecting Superman or whatever, and he's like, Lois, I got to tell you something. And then she comes out, and then you just see like the transformation that Christopher, he's Clark Kent, takes off the glasses, and he just like stands straighter and everything like that. So it's like we're watching like just magic like right before our eyes, and then she starts coming out, and he puts the glasses back on, and he's back to Clark Kent. So it's like stuff like that. That is like essential that to make us believe that a pair of glasses can hide Superman's identity. So it looks like they're doing a good job here. But there's my only teeny tiny concern is all these other characters. I guess it's important, to show that this is a big world. It is not just Superman, because heroes and all these people exist. So we see Guy Gardner, which is the odd choice of the first Green Lantern we see is Guy Gardner. But that's gonna be cool. We see Hawk Girl, we see Metamorpho, we see Mr. Terrific. And we see Lex Luthor, so we see Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and yeah. Oh, and when I showed my 8th grade class, when you see Superman, there is one girl, so she's like, oh. So I guess that's like the seal of the young, the young teenage seal of approval with the casting. So I'm looking forward to that. So July 11th we have that, so that's going to be good. David Ayer is apparently going to take a break from social media. He was getting some death threats, which is ridiculous. Because people have been doing a push, release the Ayer cut and everything like that. And he's doing it. Fans are doing it. So it's not just him. I don't think it's not like he's like organizing a mob. Like, okay, we need to start pushing this or whatever. He wants it to happen. But I'm sure there are other people they're invested as well that just really want to see it. And I think he kind of like when Creature Commandos came out, he's like, maybe we shouldn't like step on the toes there. But then he wasn't aware that like when the Superman trailer is going to drop. So he's like, maybe we should avoid like the Thursday when that happens. And then I guess I believe this is what it was. Then people were getting angry at him because his view was, I want to support my fellow filmmakers. So James Gunn is making this movie, and they put all his time and work and everything. So he doesn't want to take away from that. But people are calling him a traitor and all. It's just so ridiculous. Where I could see like if it was a Snyder, the hardcore bros or whatever, they would be all over. And I don't know, I haven't seen any comments, but I could see them, Superman trailer comes out, release the Snyder cut or restore the Snyderverse. And so, but I mean, if any, I didn't actually see what the death threats were, but I mean, if there were some, then man, track down their IPs, because that you cannot threaten anyone. And I don't care if you're, I didn't mean it, I'm just typing it online. It's like, no, you don't, that is never okay. Just because you have an icon of whatever, some cartoon image or something like that, it doesn't give you a license to just say whatever you want. And that's the horrible thing about social media. And that's why so many people are leaving, because I just feel like people just lose their, like the way they talk to people. It's like, you don't just go up to someone and just blast out whatever, like, oh, you sucked in this. You don't say that. Jesse Eisenberg. I didn't read the full specifics of this, but he said that playing Lex Luthor kind of hurt his career. It's like, yeah, because it was not a good performance. Or I don't even know if it was a performance. I didn't care for his performance so much, but I wouldn't necessarily put all the blame on him, because I don't think it's like, oh, here's a script, I'm going to play Lex Luthor like this, because I'm sure Zack Snyder's like, okay, this is who Lex Luthor is, and the script's like, here's your dialogue, here's how you're gonna, I would imagine there's like, okay, you're going to come in, you're going to walk like this, you're going to stand like this, it's not like just. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but I would just think, especially with Zack Snyder, I would think that, not that he would be a control freak or anything like that, but I would think, I'm assuming that he has this particular vision. He wants things done his way, what he would say is the right way. This is his movie. It's his name on there. He wants things to be done a certain way. So he would say, okay, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. I mean, that's what the director does. And some directors may be like, okay, how would you interpret this? And, kind of go with that and maybe make a recommend. I don't know. So I didn't care for his Lex Luthor. So yeah, there's that. How about some rumors? We're going to jump over to Marvel and we'll come back to DC. Apparently, Avengers Doomsday, there's rumors that Ana de Armas is maybe up for a mystery role. And so one, it's like, okay, I mean, it makes perfect sense, because as we're moving forward in Marvel, and we've seen some people leave and now they're kind of coming back, whatever. But it's like, okay, we're going to see more characters. We're going to see other characters come in, and whether they're other actual comic characters or just other new characters in the movie. And Ana de Armas, she has never been in one. It's like, so it's almost like it's about time. And I think she's really cool. I'm looking forward to the ballerina movie, the John Wick side, whatever. I don't know who she would play in Marvel. And my thing is, like, if she's going to be in a Marvel movie, I want her to be like an important, like a cool character. I don't want her to be wasted. But I mean, she might be like, yeah, I'll just do this one movie, or I'll do two. I'm not looking for a 10-year contract, because she's going to want to do other things. But it's like, if they're going to have her, maybe I would want her to be like a really cool character that she is right for. I mean, don't just put her as anything, just to attach her name on there. I'm trying to think of an example, like who they could use. Like I mean, I'm just gonna, the first name, like, hey, let's have you play Kitty Pryde, which would make zero sense. But we got a role to fill. You want to do it? We'll just do it. No. Find someone that she would fit, that would be right for it. And I can't think off the top of my head, because I'm also thinking, it's like, I need to keep rolling and get through this episode. But that would be cool. So I hope that's the case. Another rumor, this was from that Snyder guy. He said that he heard that Sadie Sink from Stranger Things is rumored for Marvel, and more specifically as a mutant, and more specifically as possibly Jean Grey. So now here's a point where it's like, okay, Sadie Sink is she's like a hot up and coming actress. She's great in Stranger Things. She was great in the All Too Well Taylor Swift video, and I feel like I feel like there's something else she was in, or am I just crazy? I feel like there's something other than Stranger Things that she did that was like really really good. But now here's the thing. It's like, okay, Stranger Things, I think they just said they just wrapped filming. What is she going to do next? Go to Disneyland? No, it's like, oh, let's make, this is where you never know, like, is there any facts to these rumors? Or are people just reaching and just, trying to throw things against the wall? Like, maybe we'll guess right. Because the odds are, like, it's the same thing with Ana de Armas. She hasn't, she hasn't done anything. I think there's this video on her Instagram page where It's like a series of like all these other intro videos that she does, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Ana de Armas," and she just says it like over. And it's like 5 or 6 times of her introducing herself. It's like as if she needs to introduce herself. So, anyways, and I think this is the most I've ever said her name. I don't think I've ever really said her name before, but Sadie Sink, it's like, okay, now what is she going to do? Maybe she'll do a Marvel movie because, everyone's doing a Marvel movie. She's got red hair. Who's red hair left in comics? Oh, what about Jean Grey? I would be down with that. I would approve. So we'll have to wait and see. Another rumor, Spider-Man 4. This is something that we've heard before. Sacha Baron Cohen, he's rumored to be the villain in Spider-Man 4, and before, he's rumored to be Mephisto. We'll see. I just worry, Mephisto and Spider-Man, bad taste in the mouth. Don't want to talk about that from the comics. Also with Spider-Man is they're saying, Zendaya is gonna be in the movie. She's gonna have a minor role, which could make sense because where we left off Spider-Man, Zendaya, MJ and Ned, they forgot that Peter. I don't think, did they even know who Peter was? Or they just, no, she didn't even know who he was because he came in the little diner thing or whatever, donut shop she was working in. She didn't know who he was. So, is Mephisto going to turn things around? He's going to make some stupid deal with him? We'll see. Another rumors, Daredevil, Charlie Cox Daredevil might appear in Spider-Man 4, which that would be cool. We could have that. There's also saying that Daredevil Born Again, right? That's what it's called. That it may even be darker than the Netflix Daredevil, which is like, yikes. Okay, we'll see. Going back to DC for just a second, Matt Reeves, I guess, said that the script for The Batman 2 is being finished. So, finally, it's like when did that first movie come out? Like, how long have you? What else are you working on, Matt Reeves? And no, I'm not saying you need to rush and do it, but it says he's been doing other things. I don't know. I'm sure I'm sure he's way busier than like I am. But yeah, so that's great. I want to see this before Robert Pattinson's like up for like Dark Knight Returns. And then what about like Penguin 2? He says there's still like ongoing conversations, everything's on the table. They're talking to the showrunner, and trying to figure out, is there anything that they could do type of thing. Because, they don't want to do it just to do it. They want to make sure that, there's a good reason and so forth. And then the last bit of news. So maybe I should have gone to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Because as of now, on Rotten Tomatoes, it is at an 86% critic score and a 98% audience score, and that's like thousands of verified viewers. So people seem to be liking the movie, and like I said, I'm really curious because like Kristen Ritter's in there, and I think she's cool, and I feel like I haven't seen her lately, in anything, because I didn't see that Orphan Black thing she did. I kind of wanted to. Yeah, so maybe I need to watch Sonic 2 sometime. And maybe, I used to do that, talk about movies on Secret Podcasts, and, so maybe I should do that at some point, and yeah. But we are not going to talk about that now because that is going to be the news for the week. It's time to move on. With comic books, at Dynamite Comics, we'll start there. So one comic that I think I didn't get to last week was Terminator. Terminator, I forget if it's issue 3. So I liked it, but as I'm reading this, I'm starting to wonder like how many of these stories can we have? Because this one continues from the previous issue, and it's taking place during Vietnam, where there's Terminator going after the soldier, and the soldier, he has had a kid with one of the locals, and they're trying to clear the area out and or evacuate, and there's a Terminator coming after him. So he's obviously I don't know if it's him or one of his descendants, because I think that's what the Terminators are now trying to do is go after like earlier ancestors or whatever, rather than the main target. The only thing is, like the first story in the first issue, I thought that was cool. But now if we're starting to do this, all this other, because I just worry, and I shouldn't, because Declan Shelby, he's a pretty brilliant writer. I just worry it's going to end up being the same thing, like Terminator going after someone, and then the fight, and then the same thing. But this was interesting, having the Terminator in Vietnam War, that's interesting. So we have that. Thundercats came out this past week, Thundercats 11. Now, as I read this, and then I was like kind of rushing towards the end, like I need to read as many comics as I can before I hit the record button. I don't recall, and I didn't check if I read issue 11, but reading issue 10. I don't know what did I just say. I don't know if I read issue 10, but issue 11 is out. Looking at the synopsis, I was like, I don't remember this, because it says, after trying to keep silent about their unsanctioned explorations, Wile Cat and Wile E. Kit finally reveal the discovery of Mumra's Black Pyramid to the rest of the Thundercats. So I remember that happened, it must have been at least a couple issues ago, and Lionel, because Lionel's like went off on his own, and I think he went to the pyramid, so I feel like I did miss something. Because it says, once he learns what the Cubs found within the obsidian walls, Lionel makes a fateful decision. He will go alone on a quest to confront Mumra in his place of power. So there is a confrontation here. But then what we have is Chitara and Tigra, like, talking and smooching and stuff like that. I saw some of it, it's like, oh, they're twists on, but it's like it's not like this has been a secret, and they've talked about it. They've shown that there's like a connection between them, and the Chitara comic, which is kind of a prequel to Thundercats, before Thundera blew up or whatever. So yeah, I don't know about that. Johnny Quest came out this week. Johnny Quest number 5. I didn't get to that one. I really like this series. I'm really enjoying it. So Joe Casey is drawing it, and Sebastian Perez is doing the art. So again, the brilliant thing about Johnny Quest, it's not a spoiler anymore, but the whole Johnny Quest cast end up in the future. And we see like an older, old man Johnny Quest, and things have kind of gotten, not necessarily like completely dark and bleak, but I thought it was like a really cool way to bring Johnny Quest, the characters and everything like that, in like modern times without completely revamping everything. So it's essentially the characters that if you've ever watched a cartoon, that whole just energy and everything like that, but now they're like in the modern world, and so it all makes sense without having to say, here's Johnny Quest in the 21st century. So I'm digging it. At Image Comics, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot that I read. I don't think, G.I. Joe number 2 came out, and I really dug the first issue, and I didn't dig the second one as much as the first. And maybe it's because, maybe a small part is there's a death of a character, at the end of we virtually get, so at the end of the first issue, I'm not going to spoil who, someone gets like really shot up. And it's just like, okay, that is crazy, because, this is an actual, major character. And then this issue, it's virtually confirmed that they're how are you going to survive that? But I feel like, because it's comic books, there could be some weird twist somehow, but it doesn't seem very likely, and it just seems crazy. It's like, why? But yeah, it's my only thing is I can appreciate the Transformers connection, but I just feel like it's also kind of weird in a sense where. And I'm still not clear, because I read the Cobra series, because Cobra gained access to some energon, and he's using the energon to power like these weapons, and he's got these laser guns and stuff like that, and the Joes are like, what is this? So he has this big advantage, and he's showing it to Destro and allowing Destro to use some to design some weapons and stuff like that. So you have that, but I don't understand what Cobra's supply is, because he gained some, and I know he was in the swamps looking, and he's talking, working with the Dreadnoks or forcing them to show him stuff. But for the Transformers, they need Energon to energize, to whatever, fuel themselves. And so I feel like Cobra can't have this unlimited amount. And if he did have a large amount, is it like, I don't know exactly how Energon works. Is it like a self-replicating like power source, like ongoing thing? But I feel like it's not, because every once in a while, the Transformers need more Energon to power themselves, or like fueling themselves up. So I'm just a little confused about like how much Energon does Cobra have, and I feel like that also gives him like a huge advantage over the Joes. And but I do like, I'm enjoying this new direction, new launching whatever, and it's not like the characters are extremely changed and radicalized or anything like that. It is cool seeing Baroness kind of working with the Joes, because she's questionable, but I think that's kind of a neat thing. And yeah, I don't want to spoil like what other character, like one character is kind of doing some infiltration, and yeah, that's gonna be interesting. So it's good, and Tom Riley's art is amazing. So you should definitely be checking that out. The other thing I read, Rockefeller's #2. So this is Peter Tomasi and Francis Manipul. So this is at the Ghost Machine imprint. The creator-owned stuff. And the Rockefellers are from like the 25th century, and they had to like flee through the timeline. They ended up in like our modern day, and they're kind of stuck there. They're trying to, they don't know, and they're kind of being hunted, and they're trying to lay low. And then it's Christmas time, so yeah, it's a fun issue, and we get some more information stuff happening. Let's see, there's a Standstill #5 came out. So this, I didn't enjoy this issue as much. So I think a lot has to do with Andrew Robinson's art. So I mean, I love his art. He's just got this like just really cool style. And I mentioned it before. The Fifth Beatle. That was like the first time I really was was like, whoa. I may have seen his art before and other stuff. I don't know, but that just like really blew me away. And his art is just the way his character designs, and I don't know, the way he draws cars, like just really good. And in like the last issue, I think it was, or one of the previous issues, where he was like doing like part, because it's not easy for artists to do a boom boom issue, especially if you want such detail and everything like that. You don't want the artist to rush and just like half-ass it or anything. But he doesn't do the art in this issue, so it's just like, oh man. And it's not fair to the artist. It's not that it's bad or anything, but it's just not what I expect. Because when I saw, like, oh, Standstill's out this week, awesome, and then it's like, oh, but it's not Andrew Robinson's art, so it's a little disappointing. And it's like I said, it's not fair to the artist. And so basically, what's going on here is this dude steals this device that like kind of freezes time, and he can do whatever. He can take someone's drink and then turn time back on, and so these other people are trying to like track it down, like, and so it's a really really cool premise, and I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm digging this. And then we had a Walking Dead Deluxe #103. I don't see, now here's the thing where I'm starting to get confused, and I need to get caught up because I don't want to do what I did before. I don't think I read issue 102. I could be wrong, so I need to make sure I catch up on that. At Marvel, I did not read this. We had Alligator Loki holiday special. Okay, I hope people enjoyed that, whoever that's targeted for. Had Blood Hunters #5. Oof, this is a final issue, but for some reason I think because I like most of the characters. You got Dagger, you got Yelena. You have, who else is here? I mean, you got Elsa Bloodstone, which I'm okay with her. She kind of had a bit of an attitude, at times here. And then Hallows Eve, which here it shows you that there is some potential to her character. When she's just like with Chasm, with Ben Reilly, she's just like a major and it's just weird her hanging out here with these others. And because I feel like she's just like attached to Ben Reilly's hip. Like she can't do anything on her own. She's always with him. And or maybe it's like he needs her, because like maybe he can't do anything without her. So it's just like kind of weird. And yeah, so it's the end of the issue. But like I said, I mean, I kept reading. There was something that kept me coming back. And as you know, I'm being very selective these days, where it's like if something's not like jiving with me, I'm not going to read it. And I was still reading those. Captain America 16. I believe this is J. Michael Straczynski's final issue. And I'm not going to go into it. I just feel like every once in a while, some of the dialogue, the way he makes Captain America talk or say, it just seems weird because, I'm just so used to Captain America. He's based like an old man. He's from a different era, and he's not going to say some of these things. But there's something he said in this issue, again, to, I think it was the Spider-Man, and it felt like kind of out of character. And I said if I can find it. Oh, there's one time where Captain America is looking at something, and then Spider-Man's like, take a picture, it lasts longer, and Captain America's like, buzz off. I mean, that's not quite it, but I don't think he would say buzz off. There's something else he said that I was just like, wait, what? So I don't know, but what I did like about this issue, it is cool to see Captain America, Spider-Man, and Thor teaming up, because it's not like your typical team up. Captain America and Thor, that makes sense because they've been Avengers so many times. So you have that. But I just thought it was cool to have Spider-Man on here. There's another issue, Conquest 2099. I haven't been reading that. Should I have been reading this? This is issue 5. I have no idea what's going on there. Daredevil 16. And the thing, the part 16. How can you have a 16-part storyline? Oh my gosh, these demon things or whatever, it's just going on forever. And with them possessing people and targeting, fighting Matt Murdock, and it's just like, oh, what is going on? And so now, spoiler, one has possessed Foggy. So Foggy is going after Matt Murdock, Father Matt, and the church, because Father Matt kind of stopped this jerky dude from, so he hit him or got in a fight, and so he's like trying to sue them. They want to take down the church, but yeah, this is just, it's going on way too long. But it's not like horrible, I'm not saying that. I'm just like so ready for this demon stuff just to be over with. Deadpool issue 9. So Deadpool is quote unquote dead. His daughter Ellie, she's realized she has powers, so she's kind of been working with Taskmaster and Princess, the Deadpool symbiote offspring, something, whatever. They're fighting against MODOK, and Sally's trying to. She thinks there's a way to bring Deadpool back to life. He was killed by this mystical dude, and his body stopped healing, and he died. So we'll see. Fantastic Four issue 27. This was an okay issue. I'm a big Ryan North fan. I think he's hilarious. And he doesn't just do comedies. He does really good stories. And we've had a lot of cool Fantastic Four stories from him. This one focuses on I forget her name now. The Skrull girl, Nikki Masters Grimm, because the kids are all going to this school, which is a very progressive school, because I guess they don't care if there's aliens or mutants or anything like that. and it's mainly dealing with her because with being a shapeshifter, the common misconception, whatever, is your shapeshifters are monsters or Skrulls are monsters and stuff like that. And she's kind of using her powers, and she's kind of abusing them a little bit because she's like, well, this is my power, this is what I do, so I should be able to take the form of whatever. And and then comes the problem, like the whole secret identity thing is they're kind of threatened at school because the Fantastic Four are elsewhere, so someone comes to demands that send the kids out because they want revenge against them or whatever. Helverine #1. Wait, why is this #1? Hasn't this been going on, or is it? I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to read that. Immortal Thor issue 16. I don't know who's this on the cover because we're very reflective Thor helmet, and it looks like, I don't know if that dude's Cobra, the dude in the green, and I think that's Mr. Hyde, and it's like a weird picture because Cobra's on his shoulders. He's got his leg around, which looks kind of weird. I don't know. Namor #5. I am not. No way am I going to read that. Psylocke issue 2. This is good. So it's continuing. Cyclops benched Psylocke. I never realized how similar those names are. And he's like, okay, you've been doing too much, and then she goes off and goes on this, gets involved in this other mission where these mutant kids are being kidnapped and exploited and stuff like that. And so she's tracking them down, and she has to go to New York to track some other one, other mutants. She saves some, she brings them back to their Alaskan base, and she's like, hey, Beast, watch these kids. And he's like, what? And then she leaves right away. And then she meets up with someone else in New York, and I won't spoil who, and to try to track down some more. So I'm enjoying this because it's so weird because this is Quanon Psylocke, and I was always such a huge Betsy Braddock Psylocke, and when they switched back, I was like, oh, Betsy is Psylocke, and it's so weird. But obviously, it's Quanon's body, and so I'm it's almost like relearning who this character is or whatever. Meeting the character for the first time or whatever you want to say. So I'm enjoying this series. I'm glad she's got her own book. Although Watch is just a miniseries. I'm sure it's going to be a miniseries, right? Because that's how everything is. Sentinels #3. I'm not reading that. I don't even know who wants this book, and not trying to knock it, whoever's digging it. I didn't dig it. I don't know, but maybe I didn't give it a chance. I don't know. I don't think I read the second issue. I think I just read the first one. We got Magneto on the cover, which is kind of weird considering where Magneto's current state in the X-Men comic. Spectacular Spider-Man issue 10. Man, this was hard to. I'm just not enjoying. You got Spider-Man and Miles Morales, but I'm having a hard time getting through this. Yeah, and this is the thing. It's issue 10, and we still have some storylines that are still going through from the first issue, so it's getting to be too much. Okay, we had Ahsoka comic. We had Ewoks. I didn't read those. Then we had TVA Time Variance Authority #1. This was another one I was reading kind of at the last minute. I was kind of rushing through it. You got Spider-Gwen, which kind of makes sense because Spider-Gwen and her comic, Ghost Spider, whatever it's called. There's stuff with the TVA where she had to leave her reality for some reason, which I don't think we still don't know. But then you got other characters here, and it's weird because it's even though it's tied to the comic, there's almost references to the TV versions, and the Loki from the Loki show compared to Loki we know. So it was just interesting, but I feel like I didn't give it enough of a chance to fully. It didn't have my full attention. So yeah, I probably need to skim that over again. Then Ultimate Spider-Man issue 12. This I was just okay, so I love this book, but man, at the end I was holy crap, what? it starts off, you see, Spider-Man's dressed as Santa, it's the holidays, and so the Parkers are like having a holiday party. They have a bunch of, Ben and Jonah are coming over. Some of Mary Jane's family comes over. It's like, wait, what? She wasn't expecting them. What's weird is like Gwen, who's married to Harry, she keeps trying to call, but like the Parker kid, the girl, she's using Mary Jane's phone to play games because she's kind of bored, and she's like, Mom, Gwen's calling in, and she's like, oh, just whatever, ignore it, I'll call her back. And so there's something going on there. But what's interesting is, what I'll spoil is Mary Jane's sister shows up, so they got kind of like a tense relationship. So it's cool to see Gail. I think I know we've seen her, but I think it was like Amazing Spider-Man 257. I think it was 257 is where like the first, that's when I first saw her, and I don't know if that was the first time they showed her, but it was kind of cool to see her. And we also, not only do we have Anna Watson here, but we have Mary Jane's mom. It's like, what? So yeah, there's a lot going on here. Even though it's kind of like a holiday, not really a holiday issue. I don't want to like just say that, but it was pretty interesting. At DC, there's a lot came out this week, so I definitely did not read everything that I should have read. There was Absolute Batman number 3, and I don't know how I feel about this. I think that kind of says it. It's interesting to see this different version of Batman, and there's definitely potential to see where it can go, and it is cool to. I am coming around to seeing like a different take on Batman, and it is cool that who's going to give us this different takes. None other than Scott Snyder, who did an amazing run on the New 52 Batman. Because how many issues was that? It was definitely over 50. I don't even remember now, but it's such an epic run. And so now, he doesn't want to do more of the same, I'm assuming. And so we got this different version. I'm still, there's still something I'm not like totally crazy about, and it's just because we don't like change. But the whole Alfred here, we are seeing, he's pretty drastically different. But some things are kind of coming around, and then like Batman, Bruce has to make a decision, and so we'll have to see where this is going to go. Then there is a New Gods number 1. I started reading this. This is by Ram V. Does writing, and I think Evan something did the art. I'm not like I'm one of the few. I'm not like the biggest New Gods fan, and reading this was again towards the end where I scrambling to try to read this at the last minute, and there's definitely some interesting things here, because with what's going on with Darkseid after the last things, like Darkseid's dead. How is that possible? What's going to happen? How's he going to come back? He's got to come back, or who's coming back? So we got some stuff with like Mr. Miracle and with Orion, and I don't know where they're going to go with this. So this is when I feel like I need to go back and like just read it, again to just make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, for some reason I just was never the biggest New Gods fan, and I maybe I'm wrong, but yeah. Wonder Woman 16. So there's more on Wonder Woman and this new baby and the death of Steve Trevor, but a lot of this is like Detective Chimp. He's like investigating the murder of Steve Trevor, and he's talking to that dude who's calling himself the King of America, who's been like the villain in this entire run, and I don't know what's happening here, but Detective Chimp was pretty funny. He's brilliant. He is like made possibly a better detective than Batman, is the way they've made it out often, and he's just really giving this guy like just kind of being annoying, and he's doing a good job at it. Nightwing 121. This is good. At first I was like, oh man, and part of it is like post Tom Taylor. It's like, no, why Tom? Why do you have to leave? So we got this new direction going, with Dan Waters and Dexter Soy doing the art. But The one thing that's a little ridiculous is, so this new like police forces come to town where, you know, this high tech, and they're not even police. I don't even think they're police officers. Like this high tech force, they got these flying jetpacks and these guns, and they're just shooting and whatever. And I just feel like they're so extreme, and like you can't just be shooting civilians, even you can't be shooting like quote unquote criminals. And so, you know, Nightwing's trying to put a stop to this, and this woman in charge of this force, who's, you know, she's just very extreme about things. So I don't know. Action Comics 1080. Yeah, it's still Phantom Zone stuff, Battle of Kandor, you know, and it's weird because with all the Phantom Zone people who escaped, I don't think we really see a whole lot of them here. So I don't know. World's Finest. I forget what issue this was. This was fine. We have like a flashback, you know, with Batman, Robin, and Superman, and then you know, they defeat this alien, but then it's like a year later. Batman and Robin have been gone for like a week or two or something like that, and Superman's even missing. So, you know, Batgirl's been like kind of stepping it up in Gotham. And then Crypto goes to Jimmy and tries to get him, you know, gets him to take the elongated man, or was that what it was? Like the formula. And then he ends up like teaming up with Batgirl. So it was fine. You know, it's not like a crucial story, but it was kind of fun, which is what these stories are supposed to be. But that's my thing, where it's like, okay, I'm reading this story, but it's not adding anything major to the lore of the characters, but it's, you know, they don't always have to be. You know, it should just be something entertainment. I don't know. Challengers of the Unknown. This is by Christopher Cantwell, which I like his writing. He's a really good writer. And I'm always been on the fence with these characters. I feel like the last time I read them, Dan DiDio wrote them, and I like that. But these characters, you know, it's weird because they kind of feel like a take on the Fantastic Four, and I forget who came first or whatever. And I don't know. I feel like we've seen like kind of sort of almost different versions of the characters, or slight differences. So now they're back here, and I'm not really sure what's going on. And I started reading it, but then it was like early on, like I think this was issue Mr. Terrific. There's like there's like a 2-page spread, and there's like 3 word balloons, jam packed with text. He's like saying all this stuff, and I'm not saying that I can't read, and I'm not saying that I don't want to read. But there was just a lot. Sometimes in comics, when there's just like these big walls of text, it just like, it kind of makes me do like a double take. I'm like, what is going on? And it might just be also because it's just jam packed into a word balloon, so it, you know, it makes it a little harder to read. And I was just like, I'm just trying to read through this comic to find out what's going on. I don't want to read I'm not here to read a book, because I don't have time to read a book. I'm reading this comic. So yeah, after that, I just started skimming. So I may have missed like what was really going on. And hopefully before issue 2 comes out, I'll go back and, you know, give it a chance. Batman and Robin, year 1. I forget what issue this was, but this is Mark Waid and Chris Samnee, and it's good stuff. I mean, I hope this series never stops. You know, I think they're doing such a great job. Just this early time in Batman and Robin's career, and like Alfred's just getting like fed up with, you know, Dick leaving a mess everywhere and just being like this annoying kid. And, you know, he's talking, like when he goes to Bruce, he's like, you are raising this child, not me. And so it's basically like, you need to do something, because it's not my job to, you know, do all this stuff. So yeah, I like that. Jenny Sparks, number 5. I read the first issue. I need to get caught up on that. I don't know when that's going to happen. I did not read Teen Titans 18, 1, because of time, and 2, because I haven't been digging this series, but I should probably read that. Question number 2, Along the Watchtower. So this is by Alex Segura. So I'm bummed that I missed the first issue, and I still haven't read it, so I need to read it. I didn't read this one. Green Lantern, Green Arrow, World's Finest Special. I was reading this, And I was like, okay, this is cool. We got these two together. Then I was like, wait, when is this taking place? And I think this was like kind of like a flashback story because someone like attacks them in like this gray and black outfit. And they're like, who's that? I've never seen him before. And I was like, it kind of looks like Deathstroke, but different colors. And it turned out it was Deathstroke. And it's like, wait. And then I was like, oh, this is like a flashback out of continuity or whatever. Plastic Man No More, issue 4. I need to read this. I haven't read this because this is such a dark, bleak story. We have that. And that's pretty much it. There's Hellblazer, another Silent Night, there's Catwoman. But that was it. So that's all I read. That is going to be comic books for the week. Okay, Cobra Kai, season 6, episode 10. I forgot how you say this. Inu Jangdo. That's basically Kreese's knife. This is now I don't know, because originally I thought it was only going to be 10 episodes. According to IMDb, it says there are 15 episodes in the season. So it looks like there's 5 more, and I think they're supposed to come in 2025. Because this can't be how the series ends. But holy crap, things get crazy. So there's this it starts off, there's an old like film real sound, Japanese announcers, and now the moment you have been waiting for, the final match of the Sekai Takai. So we see like someone headed to the mat. They have the Miyagi logo on their back, on their gi. Fighters to the mat. So he bows. We don't see his face yet, so it's like, okay, what's going on? Who is this? Then the crowd chants, Miyagi, Miyagi, Miyagi. So obviously this is a flashback, in case it wasn't clear. Camera pans around, we see his face. We see like a young Mr. Miyagi. His opponent is Daniel-san. So this man in English yells like, kill him, Miyagi-san. Daniel's confused. He's like, Mr. Miyagi? What is this? So he looks around, he sees people like cheering. They're like in old-timey clothes. Referee's like, set, begin. So Daniel, he has to go on defense because, he wasn't ready. So like punch, kick, punch, all that stuff. And then, big kick, Daniel gets like knocked back and groans. And Miyagi, point. And he's like, Mr. Miyagi, what are you doing? It's me. The referee starts them again. So he blocks, there's like an arm twist or whatever. Daniel rolls over. He gets kicked onto his back. He slowly gets up. And he's like, if this is a lesson, I'm not getting it. And then Miyagi's like, lesson? And he like scoffs. He's like, so then the referee's like, begin. So Daniel gets in a kick. But he's like, enough. She's like, just talk to me. There's so much you never told me. I just need to understand why. And Miyagi's like, that was always your problem, Daniel-san. So eager to understand, but not willing to accept. And then he yells. And then there's a lot of like push, block. And then Miyagi throws him down. He delivers several blows to Daniel's chest and body. Then he grabs his front, cocks back his fist. Daniel stares. His eyes, it's like we're seeing through his eyes because the eyes keep blinking like on camera. And then young Miyagi turns into Mr. Miyagi. It's like Pat Morita. So then he's like, Miyagi, never tell you everything, Daniel-san, because you were never strong enough to accept truth. And he yells, punch center to his face. And then he wakes up from a nightmare. So the next day, they take the form to Gunther, the results. And he's like, these are authentic Sekai Takai results. No question. He's like, sadly, the rare death did occur in that era. It was a different time. And then this lady comes and whispers something to him. He's like, you'll have to excuse me. He's like, something has come up. So then Chosen and Johnny, they're like, sorry, they apologize to Danny, because the news he found out that Mr. Miyagi killed someone. So Johnny says that, Gunther said it happened. It could have been a freak accident. In the lobby of the hotel, Axel is like staring at Sam and Miguel. Like all the kids are just kind of hanging out there. So he's just staring at Sam and Miguel like a creep. Zara's looking at her phone and she complains that she had 2 sponsors drop her and 3 more are threatening. Then she looks at Tori and she's like, that witch is lucky she's eliminated, or I'd wipe the map with her face. Sam is talking to Miguel about trying to do some sightseeing. Then Miguel notices that Axel's just standing there, like staring. So then he finally says to Sam's like, what is this guy's problem? So she turns and looks, and like after a couple seconds, Axel kind of like looks down, because then he notices that like she's looking at him being like a freak. So she tells Miguel that the night that he flew home, she ran into him on the beach. They got to talking, and she guesses he got the wrong idea and tried to kiss her. And she's like, I shut it down, and nothing happened. And he's like, he knows I have a boyfriend, and I guess he's just not taking it super well. And Miguel's like, yeah, I get it, but clearly he doesn't. So then he's back to like standing there staring. Robbie comes up to Tori, asks her if she's going home already, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Far from it." He's like, "Look, I owe you an apology. I never should have let Quan get in my head. I know better than that. I know you better than that. Pressure to tournament got to me." And she's like, "I can't do this right now. This whole thing just turned to poop, like everything always does. I never should have let myself believe in any of it." And Robbie's like, "Does any of it include me?" And then stupid Quan comes up, "Not your team." And he speaks something in Korean. And he's like, "It means, how you say in American, lucky bastard. What happened in match yesterday will never happen again." Well, okay, you got your butt kicked. So he's like right in Robbie's face. Robbie like moves up to like meet him. And then he like looks at Tori and like composes himself. And he's like, "It's a good thing I don't have to find out. Lucky me." And then to Tori, Robbie's like, "Get home safe, please. Like, see you there." So he turns and leaves. Stupid Quan is still standing there. And it's like his hair is like so meticulously styled. It's like, what's the point of that? You're flying home. Whatever. Then he's like, Byung Shin or something like that does not deserve to be in the next round. It's like, that is my spot. And then Tori's like, "I guess you shouldn't have let him kick your ass." And without turning to look at her, he's like, "What did you say?" Then he turns. She's like, "You heard me. You cost me my spot." And he's like, "And what would you have done with it? Zara would destroy you. Then celebrate with your boyfriend." She stands and gets in his face, and she's like, "Say that again." And then he's like, "You heard me," like mimicking her. So then she shoves him back, and he's kind of shocked, and he says something in Korean, and Kim comes up, and she's like, "Enough!" Right when he's about to like hit her because whatever, he's such a gentleman. And so she's like, "We are already returning to my grandfather in disgrace. Are you trying to add to our shame?" But it's like she seems to be saying that more to Tori, which is ridiculous. So then the Quan in Korean, she's like, "Get your mind right," and she guides him away. Miguel's next to Sam. He asks Robbie, how to go, and he's like, "Pretty much how you expected to go." So Sam says that once all craziness dies down, they're gonna figure it out. And Robbie's like, "Maybe," and he's like, "Not much I can do until then, but give her room. In the meantime, we have a tournament to win." And Miguel's like, "I have to say, all things being equal, it's pretty great knowing Cobra Kai is out." He's sharpening his little knife in his room. He's got a little sharpening stone or whatever. He has a flashback to getting arrested thanks to Terry Silver. Then he puts it in his sheath. Shink. And he goes down the elevator. He sees Silver in the lobby talking to some people. Then he like follows them like up some stairs, like on like the conference floor level, whatever. He hears Master Kim's words about not seeing the old Master Kim, not the Kim that's there. She's Kim something, whatever. I can't keep. They're both Kim, but different, because that's how it works. So Master Kim, his words about not seeing the enemy in front of him. It's like now he'll understand that nothing will ever stand in their way again. So Terry's on the phone, and he turns a corner into his like hallway. So creeps out. He starts pulling out his knife. So it's like, okay, you're gonna kill him like right here in a hotel. It's intelligent. But then he sees that Terry ends his call, and the long-haired goon and Wolf walk up to him. So he has to sheath his knife blade. And Terry's saying that he wants to make sure, like, Press Around the World covers this. He asks Wolf if his fighters are ready. He replies that Zara and Axel are always ready. Miyagi-Do will be humiliated in front of everyone. So Silver's like, "Well, too bad we can't humiliate Cobra Kai. They already did that to themselves." So Kreese has his blade out again. And then he makes his move. So I guess he's going to, with his little knife, he's going to try to cut three people, three like fighters. Okay. But he's interrupted, like his movement, because there's an announcement over the PA for Sakai Takai competitors. All dojos are to convene immediately in the main lobby, including those who have been eliminated. So Kreese seems like he's upset. He has to put his knife away again. So Gunther, he's talking to everyone. He apologizes for the summons. He's like, under the circumstances, it was necessary. He's like, there's a long and honorable tradition. We fight hard, but we fight fair. It's like, that's why I'm saddened to announce that one of the dojos here has tarnished that tradition by cheating. And people are like, what? Who? Who's cheating? And Gunther's like, Sensei Ivanov, 4 of your students have tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. You are hereby eliminated. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? So Gunther's like, you are hereby removed from our finalists. And he's like, BS. He's like, why don't you come over here and remove me yourself? And then Gunther yells, Sensei Ivanov, consider yourself fortunate that your dojo wasn't banned forever. Continue this behavior and that can be arranged easily. So then he's like, to the others, like, replacing Udar Tiger will be the dojo with the next highest point total. So here it comes, right? So Devin, she's like doing the math in her head. She's like, wait, that means, and Cobra Kai, of course. I don't know if I was like, if there's still like 5 episodes left, how can you get rid of Cobra Kai already? So then he's like, and on a more positive note, we will now announce the draws for our semifinals. So he's handed a card. In our girls bracket, the first semifinal will be Maria Alvarez versus Zara Malik. And in the second match, that will pit Tori Nichols against Samantha LaRusso. And Tori is just like stone cold. She's like, not showing any emotions. In our boys bracket, our first semifinal match will be Diego Aguilar versus Kwan Jai-sung. And our second semifinal match will pit Axel Kovacek against Robbie Keane. Good luck to all our semifinalists. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the venue. So later, Johnny calls us horse poop. He's like, how many times do we have to kill that SOB? He's talking about Kreese. Chosen says that Kreese is like a cockroach, but he is not the one fighting on the mat. Robbie's like, well, what's the plan? Johnny's like, knock Kreese's head off for starters. And then Sam's like, Dad? And he's just like zoned out. So she's like, Dad? She repeats it. And he's like, what? And she's like, training? Because, he's thinking about Mr. Miyagi. She's like, training for our final fights? He's like, yeah, we'll run through the usual stuff. And Chosen and Sam, they both like, wait, they notice he's off. And, he's not even paying attention to what's going on. So Chosen, he says, senseis need time to discuss. Go get changed. Meet at gym. So the kids leave, and then Chosen tells them to get their heads out of their butts. He's like, forget Kreese. Forget Miyagi-san. And Sam and Robbie, they're facing strong opponents. So there's great pressure. They need guidance. They need senseis. They need fathers. So he's like, I'll get them warmed up. So then Johnny and Daniel are walking on the beach. Johnny wants to get them to run the gauntlet. Daniel talks about how since opening up Miyagi-Do, it's been one fight after another. He's like, maybe the defense-only thing is wrong. Maybe they shouldn't even be here. Johnny says that, well, he's like, if you want to back away from your mentor's teaching, knock yourself out. But, there's no way that you can back away from the finish line. And Daniel says that Miyagi-Do was never about tournaments. And Johnny's like, unbelievable. I should have known. As soon as the poop hits the fan, you'd wussy out. Danny's like, there's the a-hole, I know. It's like, Kreese never fails to bring him out, does he? To guys like you and him, everyone's a wussy. And Johnny's like, no, not everyone, just you. Biggest wussy I ever met. And Danny's like, call me a wussy again. See what happens. But obviously, they're not saying wussy. Johnny's like, I've been calling you 1,000 times. You don't do poop. And he like shoves it, like hits him on the shoulder. And Danny's like, well, you've caught me on a pretty poopy day. He shoves him back. Then Johnny starts pushing back and Miguel yells. He's like, hey. He's like, what the hell are you two doing? So then they're kind of embarrassed and like speechless. So Kreese talks to Cobra Kai. Second chances don't come very often, but I will be damned if we don't make the best of this one. And then Kim's like, we'll return home with honor. So Tori and Kwan like practice punching and kicking. And Kreese is like, the two of you have been chosen as my champions because both of you have that fight inside you. Now it is time to let it all out. Harness your pain, focus that rage, and target your enemy. And then, and only then, unleash hell. So they end their little training thing like breaking like a super thin piece of wood. Someone's holding it up. Tori apparently misses hers. And Kim, she kind of smiles, and Kreese calls her over for a second. So she apologizes, says, she doesn't know what's wrong. She's like, I'll get there. And he's like, when? And she's like, what? He's like, when, Nichols? This is war. In war, you destroy your enemy, or your enemy destroys you. She's like, I told you, they're not my enemies, they're my friends. Friends won't make you a champion. They'll let you down, betray you, and they certainly won't help you out on the mat. Every one of us is alone in this world. You know that better than most. So remember what he just said. Friends won't help you out on the mat. But if you go out there thinking Samantha LaRusso is your friend, then you can kiss your victory and your future goodbye. Do you understand? And she's like, yes, sensei. I can't hear you. And I'm just like, ugh, yes, sensei. So on the beach, Miguel says that he's not leaving until they tell him what's going on. And Johnny's like, fine with me. This is a topless beach. And he's like, I'm serious. I thought you guys were done with this poop. Danny's like, well, we were, but we never really are, I guess. So then Johnny's like, LaRusso just found out his sensei isn't who he thought he was. And I just found out mine is exactly who I thought he was. And I'm never getting rid of him. So Miguel's like, it sucks, but it doesn't change the fact that you turned a bunch of bully kids into one of the most badass dojos this world has ever seen, okay? Sure, you taught us some of the things that your senseis taught you, but you guys added something new on top of it. I mean, did Kreese turn a wimpy, skinny little kid into one of the All-Valley champs in 6 months? Did he fix me when I was broken? And Johnny's like, not a chance. He's like, no way. And Mr. Miyagi, I mean, did he take every single one of those kids from the valley when Cobra Kai came back? Did he crane kick Silver out of the valley for good? And Johnny looks at Daniel. Daniel kind of like nods. So Miguel's like, okay, so are you two going to let your issues with your senseis keep you from doing what you need to be doing? Going in there and being the senseis that we need to win this world tournament? And Johnny's like, hell no. And Danny's like, you make a good point. So then Johnny's like, what do you say we hit the gym and get Sam and Robbie ready to win this thing? So Johnny puts out his hand, helps Daniel up, and Daniel looks at him. He's like, I got a better idea. So the kids, it's just Sam, Robbie, and Miguel. They're running down the streets. Johnny and Daniel, they're like leaning out of this little like cab thing, like yelling at them to go. So then they practice their kata and like fighting moves. They're like outside. They're like in this lobby of some fancy building. They're in front of this big cathedral, and they end like running up the stairs. It's like they think they're Rocky or something like that. So Gunther is like, and now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Sekai Takai Tournament of Champions. Welcome competitors to the semifinal round. Each dojo will retain the points they have accumulated thus far. Each match will consist of 3 2-minute rounds with unlimited scoring and no stoppages. 1 point for a hit, 10 for a knockdown. And should anyone score a knockout, that's worth 20. So it's still anyone's tournament to win, because at this stage of the tournament, no deficit is too large to overcome. Best of luck to you all, and may the best dojo win. So Amanda, Anthony, and the other kids, they're watching. They're at the LaRusso's. They ordered a bunch of pizzas, getting ready. The first semifinalists go to the mat. So it's Diego Aguilar and Kwan Jai-sung. Kwan's, he's so cool. He doesn't even need to have his hands up, when he's ready to block. He's just sitting there. And then he does this like jump kick that Diego couldn't see coming somehow, and Kwan gets a point. Diego moves to kick him, but Kwan dodges. Sam is kind of pacing, like on the other side, and Daniel walks up to her, asks if she has butterflies, and she's like, oh, just 1 or 2. And he's like, embrace them. They're just there to remind you how much you want this. He's like, how are you doing with the Tori of it all? And she looks over at Tori, who's just like watching the match. She's like, conflicted, I guess. It would be nice to step out on the mat just once without any drama. And Danny's like, there's always going to be some kind of drama. You can't control that. You can only control how you handle it. So the fight's still going on. Kwan has 7 points. Diego has 2. Diego's like getting frustrated. Kwan like kicks high, knocks him out. He's gone, done. 27-2. He got 20 points. Then he does a stupid like extended hand like bow to Miyagi-Do. He's like, meh. Like maybe it's like, are you entertained? I don't know. So the score was Iron Dragons with 138, Furia de Pantera 107, Miyagi-Do had 87, Cobra Kai's 85. Now Cobra Kai jumps from 85. They're in second place with 112, and Furia is in third place with 109. So Miyagi-Do is at the bottom. Next up is Maria Alvarez from Furia de Pantera versus Zara Malik of Iron Dragons. So there's lots of dodges. Then Zara gets a point, and then a second point kind of like right away. And she arrogantly smiles, and she waves to everyone. And she has her back to Maria, like, no one's concerned about getting hit. Kim goes over to Tori. She's like, the Dragon's captain is fast and agile, but I doubt she's ever had to break a slate rock with her fist. So Tori's like, I'm not worried about her. And she's like, oh, you're certainly worried about something. If you're not focused 100%, you risk defeat for all of us. And Tori's like, I guess I've been wondering, is it worth it? And she's like, is what worth it? And Tori's like, winning over everything else. That's what your grandfather's karate is all about, right? Why you're so scared to go home in defeat? Why you and Sensei Kreese pushed me so hard? And she's like, yes, being the best requires discipline, sacrifice. And Tori's like, I get that. I mean, you're the best I've ever seen, so you must have sacrificed a lot. Friends, relationships, any life outside of karate. So I guess what I'm asking is, was it worth it? And Kim just like looks at her, and then she's like, absolutely. And she walks away, which I don't know if I would believe her. Maybe, but that seems like a sad life where that's all you'd know. And again, she's trying to get her grandfather's approval, and she's never going to fully get it because she's still that little girl that he didn't want practicing, whatever. Meanwhile, Zara, point, she wins 11-0. And then she mouthed something to Tori. I don't know if it was like, you're next or something like that. So now the score is Iron Dragons 149, Cobra Kai 112, Furia de Palma 109, Miyagi-Do 87. So next is Axel versus Robbie. Johnny's like, this is everything you've been working for. You earned it. And Daniel's like, breathe, focus, stay centered. Give him everything you got. And Chosen's like, and then you give him more. So Robbie makes the first move, but he misses. They're like dodging each other. So no points so far, just dodging. Daniel's like, his defense is on point. It's like, Robbie can't get through. So Robbie kicks, but, Axel blocks, with both arms. Robbie stumbles back, but recovers. Then Wolf calls out to Axel. He gives him like a glare, and in Chinese, he yells, attack. So meanwhile, I don't know what Robbie was doing this. He must have just been staring at it because Axel was staring at his sensei and is like not even looking at Robbie. So Robbie could have come up and given him it's not really a cheap shot. It's not his fault if he's not paying attention. But then Axel moves aggressively. Robbie tries punching. Wolf grabs his arm and like hits him in the chest, point. So to Johnny, it's like, says he's like, poop, his offense is even better. So point, punch to the face, a big spurt of blood flies out of Robbie's mouth. And so Daniel's like, defense, Robbie. So right now it's 5-0. Lots of blocks. Axel locks arms with him. There's almost like an embrace of sorts. And Axel's like, you going to keep on defending or are you going to fight? So he shoves him back. He lands, against Cobra Kai. And then Johnny yells, hey. And Daniel's like, come on. So Quan is one of the guys that kind of caught Robbie. And then he gives Robbie like an elbow to the kidney. And apparently none of the refs or the cameras saw this. There's like some people, the crowd starts jeering, so they must have seen it. Miguel moves towards them, and Chosen even saw it. He's like, this is BS. And so, the crowd's all upset. Then Axel pushes Miguel down when he gets close, because Miguel's like just crossing the mat, which I don't know what he thinks he's doing. So Miguel gets up, and he's like, what the hell's your problem? So Robbie turns to Quan. He's like, cheap shot, witch. He's like, want to try it again? So, of course, Quan's two buddies have to circle around Robbie because I guess Quan can't fight his own battles. Gunther starts yelling for them to stop this. And the ref is trying to separate Miguel and Axel, who are they're just kind of like chest thumping. And Gunther tells everyone, he's like, off the mat now. He's like, or this tournament, bam, he gets like sucker punched by the Ivanov dude, the guy that got kicked out. Actually, it wasn't a sucker punch so much, it was like a sucker kick. Got kicked to the face. So Gunther's like, he's knocked out. He goes down like timber, is just whoosh. Ivanov yells, let's go. So his dojo rushes out yelling. So it's like, what the heck are you doing? Other dojos start rushing the mat for some reason. Quan headbutts Robbie. His two buddy joins in because they apparently can't fight on their own. And then Axel slams Miguel down. Daniel goes wide-eyed. Kreese looks around and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do. The kids at home are watching. It's all still being televised. Wolf looks around. Chosen tries stopping some of the others. Daniel yells, someone's got to stop this. And then I'm not sure if it was Ivanov. He starts dragging this other tournament official away. Another official, Tekai Sakai lady, whatever, she tries telling contestants to stop, but then the Russian girl, she slams her down with a smile. Axel takes down three others as they come at him. Miguel gets up. He's like, hey, try that with me, punk. So he swings a couple times, misses. Axel hits him in the face. He goes down. Miguel scrambles to get up, and then Sam is trying to stop the others. But then this other girl shoves her and tells her she's pathetic. She's like, "Do you really think you belong in the finals?" And Sam's like, "Let's find out." So Robbie's still fighting, more than one. He punches Quan, but then he gets grabbed from behind, so they're got his arms pinned. Then Tori like heads towards him, and then Zara like sucker knees her and like knocks her down. So she tells Nichols, I think she's like, die, which is like, okay. And she moves like this to stomp on her, give her another kick. But then Tori kicks, she's on her back on the ground. So she kicks Zara in the gut. Zara does like a sweep kick but misses. And then she kicks towards Tori's face, but Tori leans back and avoids it. Hawk and Dimitri are kind of fighting side by side. They're helping each other out. Kim is still dealing with the Russian girl. Then her sensei comes up and starts like knocking her down. So the two are going to team up against her, but then Chosen comes up and he kicks the dude down, and then Kim says to him, my hero, or was that another mistake? And he's like, this time, no mistake, just heat of battle. So two Russians charge at them, they continue fighting. Kenny has two guys come at him. He kicks them like one at a time, and he runs upstairs to like the balcony to like the second level. They chase him. They go up there. There's more fighting. Gunther starts to wake up, and he sees like all the chaos going on, and it's still being televised. Amanika's like starting to panic. She tried calling someone. I don't know if she's trying to call Daniel or something like that. She's like, how the hell does this keep happening? And Anthony's like, it's going to be okay. He's like, I think. So Wolf heads out. The ref asks him he's like, please don't do this. But Wolf like elbows him in the face. TKO, ref is out. So then he's like, John Lawrence. So he targets Johnny. And he's like, one of us is about to have a lot more fun than the other. And Johnny's like, out of my way, a-hole. I've had enough fun for the day. So he kicks, but Wolf lands a shot at Johnny's temple. And then he's like, let's go, Sensei. So they start up. And then Daniel's like trying to like push his way through the crowd. He comes face to face with the long-haired goon. So Daniel's like, you again. So they start fighting. Robbie's still being held by Kwan's buddies. Kwan punches, then another punch to Robbie in the gut. Robbie manages to break free. He hits Kwan. Sam is fighting two other people. She knocks one down, and then Johnny and Wolf are still trading blows. Wolf does this like a spin dodge, and then he clocks Johnny in the back of the head. He just like hits him. Kreese sees Silver on the phone, like starting to head out. So he reaches into his gi, pulls out his blade, and he tucks it behind his back, or under his belt for some reason. And he just starts walking across the mat. He's like shoving other kids, out of the way. Kim hits her opponent in the face like 3 or 4 times. She keeps coming back for more, her opponent, and finally she just like knocks her down. Chosen takes down his guys, and they like nod at each other like approvingly. Then Ivanov gets up with a growl, but he gets sucker punched by Gunther. And then he adjusts like his jacket and tie. He's like, Das Vidanya, you SOB. So Miguel is on the ground. He gets up. He's still fighting against Axel. So Daniel twists the goon's arm, but then they get bumped and he like kind of loses his grip. So there's more fighting. Daniel flings him down. Johnny and Wolf are still fighting. Wolf kicks him in the face again, but it's kind of like a graze. He winds up for another roundhouse kick, but then his leg gets kicked to the side by Daniel. And then Stupid Wolf's like, 2-on-1, might actually get a good workout. And Johnny's like, work this out, clonk. He gets hit in the face. He gets up, he gets knocked down again. Daniel's still fighting. Johnny's on the ground. He sees Kreese walking like off the mat, so he gets up and goes after him. Oh, and then at one point, Kreese, he's trying to go through the crowd, and he gets like bumped, and he's like knocking kids or whatever. Devin and Kenny are like fighting by each other, and they take out some others, and they're like, nice job, good moves or whatever. So then it looks like a couple of like Spain fighters. I think they're from Spain. I guess they don't have anything against Miyagi-Do because they kind of fight next to like Hawk and Dimitri instead of like trying to target them. Silver ends his call. He turns. He sees Kreese. He's like, John. And Kreese is like, welcome to your rude awakening. So he reaches back for his blade, except it's not there. So it's like, how does he not feel that it's not there? Or, he has to know it's gone. And so we get a flashback. So when he was on the mat, and this like kid kind of grabbed him or bumped into him, and then as he grabbed him, like he kind of grabbed his belt, so it like loosened it a little bit, and the blade like fell off. Apparently, if you listen carefully, you hear a little ting, like the sheath like hitting the floor. I didn't notice it. So the blade is gone, and his eyes go wide. And then Terry's like, "What's the matter, John? You lose something?" But there's no way he would know what the heck's going on. And Kreese is like, "Nah." He's like, "I guess I'm gonna have to finish this with my bare hands." And Terry's like, "Let's go." And then bam, punches Silver right in the face. Miguel and Axel are still fighting. Miguel goes back and he finds himself like bumping into Robbie's back. So they both turn and see each other. So they give each other a nod. So then they like punch, kick. Terry hits Kreese back. Kreese hits him back. And then Terry kicks John. John kicks him. I think it was like in the crotch or maybe like inner thigh. And then Terry pulls this like little cord that's like keeping a curtain open. So it like shuts in between them. So it was like, is he running away? Zara and Tori are still fighting. Two others hit Tori, so it's just like such a mad like free for all. Miguel and Robbie clear out a bunch, and they see like Tori on the ground like blocking Zara's punches. So Miguel tells her like, "Go." So Robbie does this flying kick to Kwan's chest and continues to kick this other dude in the face. He runs over, he grabs Zara, flings her off. He's like, "Get off her." Then he helps Tori up. Zara stands and she's shocked. So like to Robbie, she's like, "You'd really choose her over me?" And Robbie's like, "It's not even close." Then someone, I think it was like one of Zara's teammates, grabs Tori's hair from behind, and then Zara takes advantage of the distraction. She kicks Robbie's ankle, so he starts fighting Zara. Tori turns and knocks her opponent down, but then she gets kicked by a dude on Zara's team. Robbie like turns and gives him a kick to the face. Kreese opens the curtain. He's like ready to fight. He's like, "Hi," but there's no one there. So he walks. You can feel like his tension just like dropping. So it's like, okay, I guess there's no threat here. Did he just like take off? But then Terry pops out from behind another curtain with like perfect timing, punches Kreese in the face. He gives him a couple more hits. Kreese tries like hitting back, but Terry blocks his kicks, and Kreese goes down. So this other dude, he kicks Tori from behind. He stands next to Zara. Tori and Robbie are standing like next to each other. This guy moves like towards Tori. Sam takes down her foe, the person she was fighting, and she sees Tori get hit and like knocked down by Zara and this dude. Two are taking on Robbie. One has him like in a headlock. Another like is like hitting from behind. So he breaks free. Sam runs up, grabs a guy that had him in a headlock. So while he's standing, she like uses him to like hold on, and she like double foot kicks the other guy in the chest. So then she flings the guy that she was using over her shoulder, and Robbie just like stands there. But then this part I don't understand. Tori's like, "Holy spit, thanks," and Sam's like, "Anytime," because it was weird because she took out the two that were fighting Robbie, not her, unless I don't know. That's how many there were. I don't know. I couldn't keep track. So now the three are standing in line, ready to take on Zara and her two teammates. Kwan he takes out three random fighters. Then he sees Robbie fighting. So of course he has to plan like a sucker punch or something like that. But he does yell out "Keen," but there's a chance that Robbie couldn't hear him. So Kwan comes up, knocks him down, like stomps down, like either a stomp or a kick, and he goes to do another one. Sam runs to help Robbie, but then Kwan hits her in like the midsection. Axel sees this, and he shoves Miguel aside and moves towards Kwan. So it's like he's got to save the girl that he likes. She's not your girlfriend, dude. She's still not gonna be your girlfriend. So he comes up, hits Kwan in the back. They're trading hits, like kicks and blocks, or they're just going back and forth. Kwan tries kicking. There's one point he grabs his leg. It's like I wish he would have just like kind of flung him or something like that, but I don't know if he let go or if he pulled it out. Wolf is giving Daniel some hard hits, and he like headbutts him. Then he like cocks back his fist, but then they get bumped by like two others like grappling. So Daniel flips this guy like out of the way. Kwan, he gets flipped down by Axel. Then he gets up, and Axel's like ready and waiting. Gives him a solid kick, which sends him flying back into the camera. It's like on a tripod. So the camera falls over, and we get like a nice close-up of beaten Kwan's like face. He's just lying there with like a bloody nose. He lets out a scream without getting up. It's like, is he having a temper tantrum? But so then he like kind of raises his head. He sees Kreese's knife, like out of the sheath, and he starts crawling towards it. Daniel sees him like from across the way. There's like a bunch of fighters in between them, and he starts like trying to push people out of the way so he can get the Quan. Silver goes up to Kreese. He's still on the ground. He's like, "Oh, it's a GD. Shame it came to this. You saved my life in a cage all those years ago. You should have stayed in yours." Kreese tries like getting into a fighting stance, but he can barely stand up. "Oh, that's it. Come on, keep fighting to the end." So Silver gets kicked in the face by someone else. As Silver and Kreese are like both surprised, Silver turns to see Johnny. And he's like, "Why?" And Johnny's like, "I owed you one." So then Silver's like, "Let's go, pretty boy." So there's a big kick, but he misses Johnny. Another, and Johnny blocks. And Johnny, he gets some hits in, but it's just kind of more of the same, going back and forth. Quan has a knife in his hand now, and it's almost like he's trying to be discreet with it because he kind of like flips it so it's like laying against his wrist, like in his hand. He looks at Axel, so I guess he's going to kill Axel, right? Daniel's still like dealing with random fighters between them. He's he wants to get over to him. Johnny's getting in more hits. Silver almost looks surprised. Then Johnny gives him like a hard kick, like kind of bending him over. Quan and Axel face each other. Quan's like such a piece of crap because I guess he can only win with a knife. And then he lets out a big yell. Rah! Daniel sees this. He can't get to him. There's too many people in the way. He's like, "Quan, no." They both like do this, like they jump and kick each other. And then it looked like, I guess Axel managed to kick Quan's foot in the air or something like that. So maybe that messed up his trajectory. Because then he like spins, he like falls, and then he like yells in pain. He's like, "Rah!" So it's like he's just so frustrated. And even like Johnny, Kreese, and Silver, they hear him yelling. So Daniel, he just closes his eyes. Axel stands there like just like looking at him. He's like frozen. And then the room gets silent. Everyone's frozen, just looking. And Quan isn't moving. So Gunther comes up, and we see Quan, there's like a pool of blood like under him. And Daniel bends down, and he calls his name. There's some woman's like, "He's not moving." It's like, duh. There's just a puddle of blood there. Johnny and Kreese have arrived. Silver's like kind of on the outskirts. Someone's like, "Was there a knife?" And others like, "That's a lot of blood." So Daniel rolls him over, and everyone sees there's the blade sticking out of his chest. So they see it on TV. Amanda's eyes go wide. Miguel's jaw, his jaw had dropped. And Tori just like looks down. Kreese just stands there and slowly closes his eyes. And Gunther's like, "Cut the feed." And then he's like, "Cut the feed." And it's black, end of the episode. So that's the end. But for now, I'm pretty sure. I think I'm almost positive they extended this, because that would not make sense if that was the end. So we still need more closure and all that. So that was pretty crazy. It is just so extremely ridiculous that everyone's just going to be fighting. It's like, I don't think you would do that. But yeah, that was nuts. All right, Creature Commandos, Season 1, Episode 3, Cheers to the Tin Man. So we're still going to be a week behind. We'll see if we catch up next week or not. So it continues. Rick, Phosphorus, Weasel, G.I. Robot, and Alexei, they run out of the vehicle to the manor. G.I. extends two metal gun arms, and he asks if he should open fire. Rick tells him to step back and keep mum. So he's like, the bride and Nina are inside. They're not moving because he's got the tracker. He's like, they've almost certainly been captured by Cersei and the sons of Themyscira. He's like, once the enemy's in your sights, attack, and don't stop until they're all dead or incapacitated. But then G.I. Robot kind of tunes him out, and he has a flashback. It's like a robot's having a flashback. He's in the wood with other soldiers. One of them, Sergeant Rock. He's like, "You getting the hang of this, Tin Man?" He's like, "Most certainly, sir." He's like, "Good. Me and Easy have been through this more than a few times. Just follow our lead. German forces shouldn't be too far up ahead. We just need to take them by..." Then there's like a twig snap, and he like puts up his fist like, stop them. So there's this clearing in front of him, a bunch of fog. He looks around. He radios like, "Sure shot. You got eyes?" So he's like up on this cliff. He's like, "Just arrived at the crescent, sir." He looks down with binoculars, sees them standing there, and then he sees like other like enemy soldiers hiding like a little ways above them. He's like, "Sergeant, get out of there now." So Sergeant Rocky's like, "Fall back." And he like yells, which it's like, it doesn't seem like the best thing. So a German soldier starts yelling in German, and they start opening fire. So they fall back, they're shooting. G.I. Robot's just standing there, and then he like, with his targets, he doot, doot, doot. you see a little like swastikas above like all the enemy soldiers. And then he's like, Sergeant, get down. And Sergeant, he looks at him, he's like, hit the dirt. GI robots starts shooting and just mows them all down like violently. Like there's like, eyes getting shot out, or heads, whatever, blown off, like guts being shot out, just hanging out there and all this stuff. Then later they're celebrating at a pub and they're like, cheers to the Tin Man, which is the name of the episode. In the present, they bust into the manor. Then Rick's surprised because the bride's like chained to a chair with like tape over her mouth. Phosphorus like, it's a trap of some sort. And Alexi like goes up to her, he's like, what? He's like, point your head, woman, where are they? So Rick tears the tape off. He's like, where are they? And she's like, they're gone. And Rick's like, Cersei and the sons of Themyscira? She's like, yes. He's like, they're gone? That's what I said. Why were you screaming? I wanted you to get the damn tape off my mouth. And then GI Robot's like, where is friend Nina? And she's like, they took her upstairs before they left. So GI goes upstairs. And Rick's like, what were you doing out? We thought we were recruiting monsters, not damsels in distress. And she just kind of like, sort of like rolls her eyes and just like looks away. GI runs through the hall and he's like calling out for Nina. He runs past the bathroom. So you see a bathtub with like barbed wire over the top. Nina screams, she's underwater. She's like, I'm in here, help. So GI returns, sees her like under the surface of water, pulls the barbed wire off. And she's like, GI. He's like, friend Nina, my disappointment in having no Nazis to kill when I arrived is lessened by my pleasure that you are alive. She like chuckles and she puts her hand on the edge of the tub and he like takes it, like shakes. He's like, hello. She's like, I can't stay out of the water. My helmet, my suit was shattered and I can't breathe without it. But I have a spare back at the castle. Do not worry, friend Nina. He bends over and he like lifts up the tub. So Phosphorus starts melting the chains around Bride. She like busts the rust off. Flag's like, Cersei and his sons, they attacked you and they just left you here alive? Why would they do? And she's like, uh-oh. They both realize at the same time. So he's like, everyone back to the castle now. They run to the transport SUV. Rick is surprised when like Jack comes running out with the tub. And Nina's like, General, I didn't want to come. I followed her here. He's like, that doesn't matter now. Move, Alexi. Get us back to the castle. Cersei led us here on purpose. She wanted us to be away from the castle so she could get to the princess. So then in the SUV, GI has another flashback. He's standing off to the side of a stage as the host talks about the United States is a home of the greatest minds in the world. The proof is in the pudding. And GI's like, asks the guy, he's like, why am I the pudding? So they take him out on the stage. People cheer. The host's like, this incredible mechanical soldier is a product of the greatest scientists in the U.S. Army. GI Robot is a killing machine who took down over 1,000 enemy troops in the war. So there's like gasps and scattered applause. And he's like kind of scanning them. And there's like question marks appearing over their heads instead of swastikas. And then the host's like, do you see something interesting out there, GI? Can I call you GI? And he put his hand on his shoulder. You just did call me GI. So people laugh. He's like, yes, I did, didn't I? And he's like, have you checked all these people's identification cards? And the host kind of laughs like, no, we haven't done that. Why would we have done that, GI? To see if there are any known Nazis. If so, they will be dispatched of in short order. The audience kind of murmurs. The host chuckles like, well, I don't think there are any Nazis here. That's what a Nazi would say. And he's like, what? So then there's a general in the audience. He's talking to this other guy. He's like, as you can see, the robot wasn't exactly built for these kinds of publicity tours. So it's Will Magnus. He's like, AI system. And the general's like, what? It's a term I prefer over robot. I've always been fascinated by the old film on the subject of combat, but I never realized that he seems to have some type of vague self-awareness. It's extraordinary. It's the first of his type, really. Well, we're going to retire it from the stage, but thought it could be of use to you in your studies. And Magnus is like, indeed. So then GA wakes in a lab. He introduces himself, and he's like, reporting for duty. Magnus is sitting at a desk, whatever. He turns around. He's like, introduces himself. He says that his specialty is artificial intelligence. GA Robot, because he's like kind of hanging. He's got like things on his shoulders. He's like, are you a Nazi? And Will's like, no, I'm not a Nazi. And GI sighs. His head bows. Oh. And then he's like, where is my body? So it's just his torso that's hanging. And Will's like, or Magnus, I'm just studying you. I'll piece you back together later, perhaps with a few improvements, if I'm feeling generous. You're truly remarkable work, especially for 1943. GI's like, are there Nazis nearby? And Magnus is like, you're awfully preoccupied with Nazis. I was created with the sole mandate to kill Nazis and their allies. But do you want to kill Nazis? What I want is irrelevant. My directive is all that matters. But if you theoretically had no directive, what is it that you desire? And he's like, someday I'd like to be reunited and see my boys. And he's like, your boys? The boys of Easy Company, sir, and kill Nazis with them. Have you seen them? He's like, I have not. The war was 20 years ago. Sergeant Frank Rock, Bulldozer, Little Sure Shot, Wildman, Canary, Four Eyes, Bogman, ring any bells? And Meg's like, yeah, no, I don't know who any of those people are, but you are going to help me a great deal. To murder Nazis? No, but studying you will help me create the next wave of automatons. In the present, Princess Ileana, she's sleeping. Soldier opens the door, busting. He's like speaking in Pocolasani, whatever. I'm sorry, Princess, but we are being attacked. He pulls her out of the bed. They go in the hall. He gets blasted. There's like blood splatter all over her. The arm's still like on her wrist, so she like shakes it off. There's a couple of sons down the hall like laughing. Was like, oh, I got him. Then he's like, oh, there she is. So they start chasing her. Rick's yelling at Alexei and driving. He's like, hurry. On a lower level, she looks out a balcony, sees like her knights or soldiers, brutal battle with the sons, just gunfire, explosion, everything. She continues running. One bro radios, he's like, oh, she's going down to East Hall or something like that. So then she runs into him. He's like, gotcha. He grabs her, flings her over his shoulder, and then the other two come up. And one guy, he's like, what are we supposed to do with her now? And then the guy's like, the hell, dude, the queen told us a million times, just kill her. And then the dude's like, I mean, yeah, but it'd be a shame not to get a little taste first. And as she reaches over, whoosh, claws his face. He like drops her and curses. She runs. And the guy's like, dude, your face is really messed up. I think you need medical attention. He's like, get her, you idiot. And she runs back to her, I think it was her room. She locks the door. And the two dudes start like pounding on her door for her to open. Outside soldiers are getting blasted away. Then the SV like skids, creature command, they all come out. They start shooting at everyone. One knight hands Nina her helmet. He's like, here, madame, your air suit. And she's like, what am I going to do? He's like, so you can help in the battle. But then he gets shot in the head. GI Robot's just like staring. He has another flashback. Someone named Sam. It's like, so how'd you get your mitts on it? He's standing next to this other dude. He's like, oh, it bounced around from lab to lab from the 60s through the 90s. They studied it, got what they could from it. I guess Uncle Sam just forgot it exists after a while. So for the last 10 years or so, it's been in the hands of collectors like you. It may not be helpful in a battle no more, but damn if it don't bring a certain je ne sais quoi to any military collection like yours, Sam. So then this dude, Sam, he's just like kind of sort of like a big guy, glasses, long hair. He has a GI in a wheelbarrow. There's a bunch of cats like all over like the living room, and he like welcomes them, or he shows his cats or whatever. So then GI Robot sitting in a chair, pours gas down his throat. He sits up. GI Robot reporting for duty, sir. And he asks like, what is your name and rank? And he's like, oh, Sam Fitzgibbon. He's like, just a guy, no rank. He's like, I wanted to join up, but I really did. But this dang leg. He's like, pleased to meet you, friend. And he salutes. GI salutes back, and then they kind of do this, a couple times. He's like, oh. Then he's like, oh, I'm going to take you, my pride and joy. So they go to his collection room. Then later we see them sitting on a sofa, like watching a war movie. It was an action movie. I didn't catch what it was. And there's like cats all over. Like there's two cats on GI Robot's shoulders, one on his head. And Sam's like, it's nice to have a family, ain't it? And, one cat, like they're purring, like licks his face. Later, he puts a coat on with like and a hat with like the flaps on it. But I do not get cold, sir. And so he's something happened to him, like with the metal. He's like, doesn't want to take precautions. Doesn't want his metal to get messed up anymore. So then they're driving, and GI's like asks where they're going. He's like, oh, we're just going to meet up with some boys who are interested in a better country, just like us. So they arrive. He introduces GI Robot to a couple other people. He says they thought that he might be useful for their causes. Then they start walking through the room. GI Robots notice like some guys have like tattoos on their necks and the wrists. Then the guy that introduced Billy, he welcomes everyone to this meeting of the Hub City National Socialist Club. He's like up on stage at a podium. And then like curtains open up behind him. There's a huge swastika. And then GI Robot, sitting there, he's like, oh boy, Nazis. And Sam's like, what'd you say there, GI? Back in the present, he's just standing around while the fight's going on. And, the others are kind of like ducked behind like some rubble and stuff like that. I think they're like by a fountain, whatever. And he's like, "Are these Nazis, General?" And Rick's like, "Yeah, GI. Yeah, these are Nazis." Then in the past, he stands up, points an arm gun at Sam. "Get ready to die, Nazi." And he's like, "What? GI, no." Puts his hand up. GI just shoots through his hands, shoots through his head, and starts firing upon a room. People are running, trying to escape. They're just getting like plowed down. In the presence, he's shooting. He's now able to separate his torso, and he's got these like hover things on the bottom of his torso. So he kind of flies up. More guns, not just two guns, like all these guns like pop out of his arms. He starts spinning and shooting. More flashback to the slaughter at the Nazi meeting, with the boys. But then he gets arrested. And then I don't know if it's like he has some memories with his with Sergeant Rock and the boys. He's on the stage, big stage, whatever. Then he's in court. The judge says something like he doesn't even qualify to be a man or whatever, but he willfully murdered 32 men in cold blood, or he says he's not a human or whatever. And the jury finds him guilty on account of second-degree murder. Then in presence, he's shooting and he's like spinning and he's laughing maniacally. Then he's brought to Belle Reeve, the monster prison, because you go down to hall, there's like all these things in cells. Then he's just sitting in his cell. Out the window, you can see like day, night, day, night. Day. It's just like, passing over. Then he's got like spider webs and whatever. So he's just sitting there. He was just left there after that for who knows however many years. In the present, more shooting and spinning. And then he blows up. Cersei's like floating behind him. She's like, "That's enough of that." And Nina's like, "GI." So dude is still trying to bust into Ileana's room. She opens a little safe in her armoire. There's like an old gun in there. The two dudes bust in. One, the smaller guy grabs her by the hair, laughing. She points the gun up like in his mouth and like shoots, and he just like collapses. And as she runs to the window, and then the dude that she scratched, the bigger dude, he comes after her. She turns and she shoots, gets him right in the chest. He's like, "Oh no," and then he falls back. But then Cersei's outside the window. "Oh, princess!" Blasts her. She goes flying back in the room. Cersei blasted Ileana. And then she just floats in the room. She lifts her up with magically, levitates her, slams her, like she crashes like into the armoire. And Ileana's like, "Please, whatever you want, I'll give it to you." And Cersei's like, "Good. What I want is you dead." So she like rises. She powers up a couple bolts. But then Weasel growls, runs in the room, gets her attention, leaps at her, like tearing at her throat or something. I don't know what. There's like blood splattering, knocks her out through the window. They crash through the window. There's like splatters of blood. And then they thud against the ground. Weasel's still like tearing some more. She like, kind of like sits up, punches him in the face, and she like, turns around to try to get up. But then he grabs her from the back of the head, slams her face down like a couple times, scratches at her back, bites down again, and then Phosphorus, he raises her chin. "I always love a good barbecue." Puts the palm of his hand, and she starts screaming, and it's just like sizzling. Nearby, like Rick and the bride walk up. She's like, "You wanted monsters? You got monsters." So later, Nina's like walking around the courtyard. She finds GI's head, and he's, it's like all battered, and like, one of the eye things like kind of cracked and everything. Like, "Friend Nina, we fought Nazis together. You and I. Yes, it. Oh, what a beautiful day. Cheers for the turn." He shuts down. And his eyes like turn off. And Nina's like crying in her helmet. And at first I was like, wait, is she going to be crying? Because you see her eyes kind of wet. But the tears just kind of like float up like into all the water. So I was like, okay, that's good. Because at first I was like, how is she going to cry if she's in a tank full of water? Cersei's still on the ground while Bride, Weasel, Phosphorus, and Rick are standing, in front of her. And she's like, "You don't understand what you've done. You've doomed the world." And that's where episode 3 ends. So episode 4 is available. You can watch it or wait until next week. Okay, then Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Season 1, Episode 4. Can't say I remember no at-atin'. So this is such a weird show. It's because it's centering on these kids basically, and I just wonder what it's like for like young Star Wars fans. Are they enjoying this? I keep forgetting to ask one of my students who, the family is like really involved with like Lucas, Star Wars stuff and Disney stuff and everything like that. And I remember when the first episode, I was like, "Oh, you're gonna watch it?" He's like, "Yeah." But we haven't like talked about it, and it's just we're too busy, whatever. So I don't know. I'm assuming he would be digging it, but yeah, I got to remember to ask him. So basically, they're coming out of hyperspace. They approach this planet because they supposedly have coordinates after Jod talked to that owl person that he knew. And so Jod says he can't believe it. And he's like, Atten, it's real. And then annoying Fern's like, hey, no adults in the cockpit, remember? And he's like, yeah, right. But then she kind of pushes him. He's like, come on, Fern. And she's like, Captain Fern, you work for us, remember? Which she's, whatever. She's a kid, right? Then SM-33 is like, you heard the captain. And he just kind of chuckles, turns around. And then KB points some houses down below. And Wim kind of like slinks back in his seat. He's like, oh, just when things were starting to get fun. So he's bummed that they're like back home. But then the control pulls out of 33's hands. He says that, the craft, it kind of takes a bit of a dive or whatever. Jod comes back. He's like, what's happening? And 33 says that they're being locked into an autopilot landing sequence. And this alarm starts going off. Jod is a Jude Law. And, he's like, is that, supposed to be happening? And, is that normal? And then the Fernie's like, do you know? And 33 is like, I'll cancel the autopilot and bring it in myself. So 33 is a droid. So they land, they exit, and it's like this smoky field. So they wonder, like, where is everyone? And Wim, there's like this merry-go-round thing there. Then there's like this explosion in the distance. And Jod's like, so this is at Atkin? And he kind of he's like, it tastes like ashy dust. He's like, looks a lot like my home planet, actually. And then Neil's like, no, wait, this isn't home, look. And he kind of runs off. Wim follows the others go. And then Fern tells 33 to keep Jod on the ship until they get back. He's like, aye, aye, Captain, initiating babysitting sequence. Then Jod kind of turns and looks at him up the ramp. He's like, come on, baby, on the ship, baby. Baby, come on. Shit. So Jod sighs, and 33 is like, don't make me count. So the kids go to this old structure, and Fern's like, be careful because the whole place could collapse. Wim's like, yeah. He's like, we know. And then he runs inside. Wim says, see, it looks like home, but it can't be. He's like, this tree is way too big. He's like, whatever happened here, it happened a long time ago. And Wim's like, unless, do you think maybe we fell asleep for 100 years, like in Tales of the Night, and now? And Fern insults him, whatever. Says, this isn't a story. And he's like, it looks exactly like it. KB says, it does look exactly like home, but Kim, the owl thing, said that there are other hidden planets like theirs, but were all destroyed. So maybe this is another planet co-founded with Atten. Fern says, but anyone that lives here might know about their home. On the ship, Jod looks through a bunch of stuff. He finds Wim's credits. And he puts one in his teeth, to see if it's real or whatever. And at 33 finds him. He calls him a thief and shoves him against the wall. He's like, we got a dirty thief on board. He's like, it's Jod. Because it's almost like, 33 didn't recognize him. So then he sets him down. He's like, sorry. He's like, at Akron be playing tricks on me memory circuits. And Jod's like, at Akron? He's like, wait. He's like, what is that the name of this planet? He's like, aye, at Akron. 'Tis a dangerous place. I know it well. And Jod's like, right, what about at Atten? He's like, at Atten? This planet does remind me, but then the mouse kind of squeaks out of his eyes and seems like jolts him out of the memory or something like that. Can't say I remember no at Atten, which is the name of the episode. So then Jod's like, let me see if I can jog your memory. The kids continue on their way. Wim is waving his stick around, acting like it's a lightsaber. He's such a little kid, which is it's great in a way. That he just embraces that. Neil wheezes, says the smoke is clogging his trunk. KB says maybe getting directions is going to be harder than she thought. But there's got to be someone on this planet, and we see someone behind some wreckage, watching them. So they must have knocked something over because there's this rattling noise. Neil's like, what was that? So Fern calls out, which just seems not the smartest thing. She's like, hello. Then Wim sees a statue with a severed head. He's like, I wonder who that guy was. And KB says that maybe he was the leader of the planet. And Wim's like, yeah, King No Head. And Fern's like, you think his name is King No Head? He's like, it could be. And Neil's like, who cares? I mean, the statue's creepy. Everything's creepy here. But then the statue gets shot, so they duck behind some stuff. Then someone pokes Neil in the back with a rifle blaster, and this kid all covered up with a helmet wants to know what flag do they fly? And Neil's like, what does that mean? And Fern's like, we don't fly a flag. And there's the other person with a helmet and a blaster who's a little taller, and asks like, who are you? And Fern's like, who are you? And then they're like, we are the Troik. And Wim mutters like, who? What? They repeat Troik. And Wim's like, he still understand. Person finally like lifts her helmet, revealing it's this girl, like, like a teenage girl, young teenage. And maybe just a little bit older than them. She's like, if that Hatton patrol gets much closer, they'll kill us all. No questions asked. So quickly, for the last time, who are you? So Wim's like, I'm Wim. He's like, are you guys like an army of kids battling the adults for control over the planet? And she's like, what? Neil's like, I'm Neil. All we want to do is find our way home. And she's like, take cover. The enemy approaches. So she runs a little into this like structure, which at first I was like, is this a train car? I think it might have been a bus that Wim and Neil took to school. So this man can be heard like shouting in the distance, and Fern's like, who's that? So one of the girls grabs her and like shushes her and says, enemy patrol. So Wim, looks out at them. The Hatton commander's like, forward. So they're like adults and like with like armor and weapons and stuff. Inside, the girl soldier uses like a reflective thing to peek out the window so she can see the soldiers, battle tanks, the beasts. They have like EOPs. They're like marching by. And she says to Fern, she's like, we must slip away. And she puts on her helmet. She kind of slides across the floor. And she tells them that she can get them somewhere safe. She's like, follow me, quick and quiet. So they move out and they see the ruins of like what was their school. And inside there's like other kid warriors. Like the smaller child makes the kids get on their knees since now you kneel before General Strix, leader of the Troik and the one true leader of Akron. And she's like, these off-worlders have offered their measly names. And she like says what their names are. And Fern, but when they say Fern's name, she stands up. She's like, Captain Fern, which is just like, just shut up, sit down. So the general stands and asks if they're warriors, and Neil explains like, we're kids. And Fern she's like, shh. And he's like, well, on this world, we treat our children as adults. So we acknowledge their strength and we help them help themselves. So he tells Fern to get on her feet. He welcomes her. He's like, if we didn't honor our children, then my daughter Hannah would never have saved you. He's like, bless your hides. You must be brave to wander the Hatton zones. Now tell me, what do you seek? So she's like, directions home. Do you know the planet Atton? And he's like, sadly, we do not concern ourselves with off-worlders beyond trading hides and munitions. So Wim asks if they have any ancient maps or star charts. And Hannah says, she's like, what about the knowledge hidden in the fallen sanctum? And the general is like, Hannah, because he didn't want her to say anything or like that. Wim and Fern's like, what's that? And Hannah says that they're old carvings, coordinates for other planets. Perhaps one of them is their home. And Fern's like, well, can you take us there? And the general's like, no, that's too dangerous. It's a distance place. You would not survive the journey. But yet, you each have potential. Maybe you can be of use. So Fern's like, of use? How? He's like, train with my warriors, and we will decide if you are ready to brave the fallen sanctum. Fern's like, we're not afraid. He's like, very good. Now go. Go. So Jod helps 33 down the ramp because he's got like this like missing a foot or something like that. He's just kind of like a stump or whatever. And I think something like that. He asks if anything looks familiar, and 33 is like, yes. He's like, there's a tower. It's like, I can't remember. And he's like, go on. He's like, what am I supposed to remember? And Jod's like, anything remind you of Atton? He's like, And he's like, and treasure? And he's like, warriors. And Jod's like, no, treasure. He's like, yeah, I remember warriors like these. He's like, no. And he's like, stuck past them we did. And Jod's like, not warriors, treasure, hidden treasure. And then the smoke kind of clears, and Jod sees several individuals standing in front of them, like in front of the ramp. One speaks out, you there, what flag do you fly? And a guy like next to him powers up like a harpoon weapon thing or something like that. Jod puts both hands up. And then he just gets on his knees. He's like, you know what? Just shoot me. The kids are at like target practice with like these big blaster rifles. Heinous says to Neil that his friends are hopeless because they keep missing or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I know. So he sets like his blaster down. And she's like, do you not wish to join them? He's like, no, not really. And she's like, you're wise. These weapons are weak. He's like, come, I will show you something bigger. So they go to this encampment area. And he's like, this is where you live? On the roof of the school? And she's like, come, claim your daily ration. So they get like the slop on a plate, whatever. he's like, this planet is so different from mine. He's like, why are you in a war? And she's like, last week, the Hatton stole a herd of our Eopes. The beasts may stink, but our lives depend on them. So today we will raid to take them back and burn their granary. The older ones say that each generation grows weaker, but when my father dies, I will be the one to lead my clan to victory. And she kind of walks off, whatever. And Neil sees like a couple kids sitting under like this like canvas, covering, like kind of like looking at him. He walks over. He's like, "Oh, are you hungry?" He gives them her plate, and Hannah notices this, and then she calls him over for like what she wanted to show him. So she's seeing like this compassion that he's showing, which is very real nice of him. So she gets this like metal like hook thing, whatever. She sticks in the ground, kind of like turns this big gear thing, and then it raises this huge like laser cannon. She says the weapon still works from like the old days, capital O, capital D. So its strength is what keeps them safe there. And Neil's like, this isn't fair. You shouldn't have to be at war all the time. And he points to the building. He's like, on my planet, that's where my mom's job is. When I'm done with school, the supervisor will give me a job there too. It's peaceful. So Hannah's like, there's no combat on this at Atten? You must be a very weak clan. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. We never have to fight for anything. Hannah's like, we have always had to fight just to survive. We fight for food. We fight to protect our friends. We are strong. And Neil's like, but fighting is bad. If you just keep raiding each other, do you think it'll even ever end? And she's like, yes. And he's like, if it was me, I'd just say I was sorry, no more fighting. But that's probably just because I'm too scared, because I'm a weak clan. And he's like, never mind, you shouldn't listen to me. Like, the one fight I was ever in was this one time my little brother, Jorko, stole my protractor, and I chased him all around the house till he jumped on my head, and I fell in a credenza, and I sprained my trunk. And she's like, are you serious? He's like, yeah, he totally beat me, even though he's about half my size. So she kind of laughs. And she's like, I've never met anyone like you before. So the others are still like target practicing, and, just like shooting, like not cans, but like little things or something like that. KB's like really good, shoots like all three of her targets. Wim puts his hand up to like high five her, but it's like she doesn't know what to do, and she just kind of holds her hands up, and whatever. Hannah and Neil come up to join them, and Fern's like, where have they been? So Wim pulls this really like big blaster, pulls it out, and he like tells Neil's like, check this out. Neil's like, I don't think that's a good idea. So he's like, no, it's fine. So he kind of sets it down like on this branch. He turns up the knob, like he's probably like turning it up to 11, right? And he shoots, he goes like flying back, just drags along the ground. So Fern and Neil kind of chuckle. Then the general comes and like stands over him. He's like, I see you trained with spirit, my boy, and now you will prove your potential. Captain Fern and her crew will honor us by leading us into battle. And Neil's like, what? And Fern's like, that's very gracious of you, but no thanks. And she like hands this like harpoon blaster thing, whatever. But he just like looks at her and he bangs his staff down, boom, boom. And the soldiers around there is, hey, they like grunt, whatever. So outside later, Wim whispers like, it'll be fine. It's like, we'll just win this battle and he'll take us to the Fallen Sanctum. KB asks, it's like, are you crazy? As soon as the fighting begins, drop your weapon and follow Fern. This dude behind him is like, hey, quiet. It's like, even talking of desertion will get you shot. So then shortly, they all kind of duck behind this wall or some like fallen, something like that. General walks up to him. He's like, go now, scout ahead. And Wim's like, looks around. He's like, us? And the general stares at him, then bangs his staff, boom, boom. Or, I don't know if that's too loud. The others are like, oh, like point their blasters at them. So they slowly get up. They go around the wall. KB's like, Fern, how are we going to run away from this? So they go slowly. Then Hannah like steps forward. She's like, I'll go with them. And her dad's, the general's like, Hannah. And Neil's like, you don't have to. And she's like, I thought you might be nervous. He's like, I'm terrified. And Hannah's like, when I feel that way, it's better to be with a friend. He's like, friend? So her dad's like, very well, then go. So they walk. Neil's like, okay, yeah, it is better with a friend. But let me just say, as a friend, this isn't right. And I'm not just saying that because I'm scared, even though I am scared. But I mean, fighting in a raid, I don't want to hurt anybody. The really brave thing would be just to make peace already. So then there's like some like noise in front of, like almost like cawing or something like that. Like, oh. There's still a lot of smoke. It's hard to see. They tense up. They get their blasters ready. This person walks through the smoke. It's Jod. He has like a staff, but he holds his hands up. And he's like, wow. And then 33 hobbles behind him. And he calls out, he's like, "You're the Troiks, right?" He's like, "I believe these belong to you." He's like, "Ah, ah." Whatever. Yopi's like, "Run up." So then later, the general shakes his hand. It says, "The Troik owe you a debt, sir." And then he's like, "These four, yeah, I need them." He's talking about the kids. So the general reluctantly steps aside and motions them forward. Fern looks at him. "Jod, you actually?" And Neil like runs up and hugs like his midsection. He's like, "We're saved." Fern looks at him. She's like, "Thanks." And KB, she also like, says thanks. And he's like, "Yeah, of course. Okay, let's go." And the general looks at him. He's like, "Are you sure you'd rather have them over our best hides?" And he's like, "How many hides?" And Neil's like, "Jod." He's like, I'm joking. Then Hana says, "Papa, they have proven their bravery." He like nods. And then it's like, "Come, I will take you to the fallen sanctum." So Jod tells them like what happened. They're walking. He's like, "There I was, surrounded by warriors who tell me you lot have joined up with their sworn enemy. Wasn't looking good. But hey, those Hatton guys, they love a bargain. So well, a couple of Republic credits." And Wim's like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "And I bought the whole herd." "What?" And Wim's like, "Did you steal my dataries?" And he's like, "Yeah, to save your lives." And then Hana's like, "There lies the fallen sanctum." So they kind of like walk past Jod because they're a little like bummed that he took the credits. KB says that this is their version of the supervisor's tower. Neil's like, "Wow, on At-Atten, no one's allowed up there." 33 is like, "Can't say I remember no At-Atten." And Fern's like, "We know." So they walk, and Hana's like, "This is as far as I go." Neil's like, "Wait, you're not coming?" She's like, "I must return to my father." And he's like, "Come with us, Hana. My house has plenty of room. At-Atten is peaceful." And she's like, "No. Perhaps someday, when I'm the leader of Troik, I will remember your ways. I see now your weakness, it makes you kind. And my world could use some kindness." So Jod's like, "Neil," he's like, he got his arms out. He's like, "Come on, let's go." So then he's like, "Neil," I was like, "I hate to interrupt, but like, move your trunk." So Neil turns to Hana. He's like, "I don't know what to say." She's like, "Then for once, say nothing." So, and then she gives him a kiss on the cheek, which is like, really? Okay. And she runs back to her people. So they push open this like door. They go inside. It's like an elevator, I guess. I thought they were entering the building. KB's like, "Maybe this will work." So it's like fiddling with the wires. And Jod's like, "So who exactly lives here now?" And Neil's like, "Well, on our planet, this is a supervisor's tower. But here, this is where Hana said there would be coordinates, maybe for home." So the elevator goes up. They walk out. It's this big room. It's empty. And Jod's like, "Another ruin." It's like, "Not much here." So Neil's like, "See anything that looks like a map to At-Atten?" SM-33 is like, "Can't say I remember no At-Atten." Wim says, he's like, "Oh, I found something." He brushes like a bunch of like dirt or dust, whatever, off the wall. He's like, "Well, that says at 2, and these are galactic coordinates." And then Fern's like, "Look, there's more. That's at Akron. Those are the coordinates that Kim gave us to this system." And Wim's like, "And here's at Arissa." And then Fern's like, "And here's at Erevan." And KB's like, "At Akoda is here." And Neil's like, guys, I found At-Atten." "Oh no, the coordinates are gone." So it's like the wall's been like gouged. And Jod's like, "Yeah, they're gone." And he's like, "Who would do that?" And then SM-33 is like, "I did." "Why? Were you looking for those?" And Fern's like, "You destroyed them? When?" "When I was here before with my old captain." Wim's like, "You were here? Why would you destroy them?" And he's like, "Destroy what?" And Fern's like, "The coordinates." "The coordinates? What you just said to At-Atten." "Can't say I remember no At-Atten." "Stop saying that." And she kind of runs off, and Neil like calls out. So like something's going on with 33. Like he's going like in this loop. So Wim goes like, "Wait, Fern." KB's like, "Maybe we can repair his memory. There's probably only a couple 100 million circuits." So Wim kind of hesitates and goes over to Fern, who's standing by a window. He's like, "What do we do now, Captain?" And her like voice kind of breaks. She's like, "Captain." She wipes a tear. She's like, I have no idea what I'm doing." She's like, "You should have been captain." He's like, wouldn't have gotten us this far." She's like, "I just led us to a battle that almost got us all killed." He's like, "Well, we made it out." And she's like, "Yeah, but now we're stuck." He's like, "You'll figure something out because you're amazing, Fern." She's like, "You can't just say you're amazing, now figure something out like I'm supposed to solve everything. I'm not a droid. I don't just do whatever I'm told." And she like walks away. And then she stops and she turns to KB and 33 and she's like, she's trying to do something to him. And then, he's like, knock it off. And Fern's like, 33, where's At-Atten? Can't say I remember no At-Atten. KB asks, like, what are you doing? And she's like, droids do what they're told. What if he can't say because he was ordered not to? I use the same trick on my nanny droid back home. 33, I'm your captain. Run memory override. You remember everything about At-Atten. So you hear like circuits whirring, whatever. Ah, yes, I do remember At-Atten. It was in this very room that Captain killed any of his crew that saw the coordinates to At-Atten. Slaughtered them, he did. Then he ordered me to destroy them and forget everything I knew about At-Atten. And she's like, but you can take us there now, right? And then he told me, if anyone ever comes poking around, looking for the treasure. And he's like right in her face. And Jad's like, Wim, give me that blaster. He told me to pull them apart. And he starts like extending his arms and legs, right? Pull them apart. Jad tries shooting, but the blaster like fizzles out. Pull them apart, limb from limb. KB and Wim like cower behind Fern. She's like, I'm the captain, and I order you. They like fall back. They like stumble and fall. And she's like, stop, limb from limb. Then he gets hit in the head by stone. Neil's like on the other side of the room. Hey, leave him alone. The others are like surprised. So 33 starts like heading towards Neil, limb from limb. Then Jad runs up, hits the 33's power button on the back of his head. He like shuts down, he like falls like almost on top of Neil, but his arms are extended, so it kind of holds him up. Then Wim's like, Neil, you saved us. And KB's like, oh, it was very brave. And Neil's like, oh, he like passed out. They're like, Neil. And Fern's like, he fainted. And that's the end of the episode. So it's interesting, so like what I was saying, the kind of big thing is, we have like all these other planets and the fact that this planet is basically like the same thing, but yeah, so now that 33 knows the coordinates, but can they get him to take them there? That's the question. So it's the show's, I'm going to admit, it's growing on me. Okay. Because at first I'm like a lot of eye rolling. I still find the kids a little annoying, but it's getting there. Okay. Then Silo season 2, episode 6, Barricades. Oh, man, it's just, okay. At a barricade, people are like pounding and cheering, let them through, let them through. The raiders like stationed there are like getting tense, and it's not just about mechanical. This dude asks the lady like, what's going on? She's like, they're holding back all our deliveries. And he's like, what deliveries? She's like, all of them. Shirley's tending to knock, his back got all scratched up from like when a cable snapped and like just slashed him. So it looks kind of nasty. He's like complaining. She's like, oh, does it hurt? And he's like, of course it hurts. So they're like in an apartment at first. They're like, wait, where are they? And she's like, oh, we should get the whole crew in here. Let them see you crying about a scrape. Then so they're in Walker's place. She's like, keep it down. So Knox tells them, she's like, we'll get McLean back. She's ahead of supply. She's too important. And, Walker's like, she's our enemy just like us. So head of anything don't mean nothing. That sheriff's looking for you. You better get moving. Shirley's like, well, he's looking for you too. Walker's like, well, he's going to have an easy time, isn't he? Because I'm not going anywhere. So then they go somewhere. This guy, Mark, rolls up, asks Knox, like, who's this? And he's like, this is Shirley. She's twice the mechanic I'll ever be. And then he's like, well, that ain't hard. He's like, I was wondering when you'd be back. And she's like, well, it's quite the operation you've got here. And Mark's like, well, we're small, but we get it done. And then he tells Lee, he's like, Lee, show them. So there's a bunch of weapons and armor being made and stuff like that. And this other guy comes in and says that raiders are stopping deliveries, including food, and that's not all. So they talk to this lady in the kitchen. She's like, I came in to do inventory for breakfast, and I noticed it on everything. Fruits, vegetables, meat, even on the eggs. So like Knox is looking at it. There's like something on it. He's like, what is it? And she's like, only one thing has that particular shade of blue, rat poison. And Knox is like, you sure? And she's like, well, something else got here before I did. And you see, a poor dead rat had eaten some of the food. Just like he died, like right away. She's like, point is, someone did this. So then the other dude's like, maybe this is connected to the food deliveries being stopped. And so Knox is like, I wouldn't put it past Bernard, but that means someone down here is working for him. And Shirley's like, either way, we're going to need a new plan. So in the TV control, whatever observation room, Bernard says, there's a truth, Mr. Admonson, that has applied to human civilization from the before times until now. Only 9 missed meals separate a functioning society from chaos. And on the screens, you're let them through, let them through. So to Patrick, he sees this guy in the room, and he's like, who's that? And Hank's like, this is Felix. He's shadowing for our doc, for that Doc Phelan. And he's like, you think just because I'm a criminal that I don't need a doctor? I just get a shadow? And Hank's like, no, Doc Phelan went to stay with family in the mids. And Patrick's like, of course he did. How old are you anyway, kid? Have you started shaving yet? And Billings like, the doctor wouldn't have left if he didn't think his shadow was ready. And Patrick's like, you sure about that? And Billings like, well, you can do this, right? And Felix nods. He's like, just get the bullet out. So he pulls out a pair of like really long forceps, and Patrick's like freaking out. He's like, wait, aren't you forgetting something? And he just looks at him. He's like, drugs, Felix. Before you start digging around, you need to give me drugs, and lots of them. He's like, only doctors have the strong stuff. I've got aspirin. And Patrick's like, he's got aspirin. This is like just ridiculous. So then we see Billings sitting at a desk. Hank asks if he's really going to arrest Knox, Shirley, and Walker. And so Billings like, I took an oath to protect the pact. Knox and Shirley need to be brought in for their own good and the good of the silo. So he's messaging his wife. And Hank's like, well, I can help you find them if you think that's what we should do. And Billings like, clearly you don't. He's like, well, it doesn't matter what I think. When Sheriff Holston put my hand on the pact, I swore an oath. So Billings like, Hank, if they're the solid citizens you say they are, they'll turn themselves in. So then, like in the cafeteria, there's like a big crowd yelling, turn yourselves in, turn yourselves in. Knox is like standing up like on a table or chair or something like that. He yells like, quiet down now. And Shirley's like, shut up. So Shirley's like, you've all heard what's being said, that we killed Judge Meadows. It's like, I swear on my life, that is a lie. Blah, blah, blah. She's like, we went up to talk and we found her already dead. We were framed by Bernard Holland and Robert Sims. And we were lucky to make it back alive. So this lady asks, like, how long are they going to be alive? I got 2 kids, and I'll go hungry so they can eat. But what happens when there's none left for them either? Are you really going to make our children starve for you? More people complaining, belling. And Walker stands up on a chair in the back. Seems to me like they've already won. Just look at us, ready to tear 2 of our own to pieces if they don't give themselves up to die. You know, maybe you want me to go out there too. You could do that. But then, in a couple days, you'll see us all out there on that hill, fallen where we tried to follow Jules, or they'll hang us by a rope outside Judicial. You'll have your food deliveries, though. You'll have Bernard patting your head saying, good job, now get back to work. Is that going to feel like winning? No. Well, it sure will to them, because this is exactly how they want us, fighting amongst ourselves, following their rules, believing that everything that goes wrong is our fault, because that's the way it's always been, and that doesn't make it right. We're mechanical. We don't fight over food. We share it. And people are like, yeah. She's like, we don't blame each other for shortages. We pool our resources. We tighten our belts. And someone's like, we don't want to starve. We don't want to starve. Then that dude who told him about the deliveries and like the poison food comes in with a cart. Knox motions him and Walker. So she comes in. She's like, listen up. Nobody's starving. Not today. Teddy? He rolls through with the cart. Knox talks. As anyone who's ever worked the scavenging room knows, not everything that comes down to shoot is trash. He reaches in, holds up like a carrot and a potato. Yeah! People cheer. Shirley pulls out a note from the bag. To our friends in Mechanical, thanks for always keeping the power on. From your friends on 122. Juliet lives. And more cheers. So Kathleen Billings calls after Paul Nichols on the stairs, and she's got the baby. He asks if Claire, the baby, is all right. And she's like, oh, she's sleeping. She's like, my husband needs a favor. And he's like, is he still down in Mechanical? And she's like, he is. There's someone down there who could use a doctor. And he's like, well, I think there's a process for requesting a doctor through the sheriff's department. And she's like, he'd rather not do it that way. So then in the TV room, Adamson comes in. And he tells Sims that they're hearing Mechanical's allies are dropping food down the trash chutes. Adamson comes into the big TV room and tells Bernard that they're hearing Mechanical's allies are dropping food down the trash chutes. He's like, ahead of schedule? This is good news. It accelerates our timeline. Post raiders at every chute. Post raiders at every chute access point. Whatever food they received will run out soon enough. So Bernard leaves, and this other monitor guy turns and gives him like Edmondson a look. Like, is he serious? In the Mechanical cafeteria, the other guy says to Knox and Shirley, he's like, so when we run out of food again, that'll be it? We surrender? And then Shirley's like, what level's the barricade? And he's like, 130. And she's like, what if it was on 120? And then Knox is like silent. So I was like, wait, what does that mean? So Walker's sitting in a workshop. She thinks back to McClane's words. They are going to need you down there now more than ever. She's brought back to the present. There's a loud knock on the door. And then again, she's like she yells at them. She's like, I'm not deaf, whatever. It's Hank and Billings. So Hank's like, this is Sheriff Billings. And she's like, huh, you were Juliet's deputy. You here to arrest me? And he's like, first, I'd like to ask you some questions about what happened to Judge Meadows. She's like, how should I know? I didn't go in. Ask Knox and Shirley. And Hank's like, they must have told you what happened. She's like, look, I'm not talking about anybody, let alone Judge Meadows, till you find out where they're holding McClane. And then to Hank, Carla McClane, head of, it's head of supplies. So she's like, I last saw her in a cafe on 70. No doubt that they've taken her by now. And I want to know if she's alive and unharmed. If so, I'll talk to you. If not, I guess you better find Knox and Shirley. And she kind of closed the door. And Billings like, wait, I have questions about a murder. The door's closed. So Peter, Julia said, Peter Nichols, doctor, and Kathleen reached the barricade, and Rader's like, no access beyond here. So he holds up some ID. He's like, I'm a doctor, and there's a medical emergency that I was asked to help. He's like, turn around. And then he's like, Sheriff Billings requested me. I don't know anything about that, so you're not getting through. Go back up. Kathleen's like, a woman's in labor. It's an emergency. And he's like, who are you? Kathleen Billings. My husband is the sheriff. Do you know what a C-section is? And the guy's like silent. He's like, it's when they cut the baby out of the mother. There are 2 doctors in a silo who can perform that operation. Dr. Nichols is one of them. And Dr. Nichols is like, yeah. And then he's like, look, I've got my orders. And she's like, if anything happens to this woman, you will be in violation of Section 12, subsection 6 of the Pact, denial of a citizen's access to life-saving health care. He kind of looks at him. And then he going down, he's like, 2 coming through, and a baby, 3 coming through. And he's like, back away. And to them, he's like, you cross, you might not get back. So they go through and they make it. Lucas, from the supposed to be in the mines, he's still working on the hard drive. He's working on the code from that letter thing, whatever. And he tells Bernard, he's like, at first, I tried shifting one letter forward, like every A is B, but that didn't add up to anything. Then I thought, what if it's one backwards? And Bernard's like, that didn't give you anything either. And Lucas is like, no. So, okay, I thought, what if it's 2 or 3 letters off, or even 4 or 5? So I started doing it all by hand, but then I thought it'd be faster to just write a program. And Bernard's like, smart. He's like, what you're doing is called a Caesar shift, by the way. It's a long story. Just keep at it. So Bernard goes into IT office, I think. It's like quiet in there. I mean, I don't know if it was, but Sims' wife, Camille, is there. He's like, Mrs. Sims. And she's like, Mayor Holland. So he sits. He's like, Camille, I heard that you helped Judge Meadows' murderers the other day. And she's like, I answered a request for all former raiders to report for duty and help with the hunt. When I got to 90, I noticed 2 citizens being harassed by some locals. I took them to a safe place. Then I radioed Judicial Security and told them where they were and to send an extraction team. And I'd meet them on the stairs. And Bernard's like, why didn't you wait until the teamer got there? She's like, because no team was sent. I was told unofficially that justice needed to come from the citizens of the silo. I was approached by a group of these citizens, several of them raiders I knew, now in civilian clothes, and they asked where I'd stashed the 2 suspects. But you didn't tell them? Of course not. I knew from my time in the judicial that vigilante justice is against the law, and we all have to obey the law. Yes? And he gets up. He's like, it was your husband who instructed the crowd to get them. I'm curious what his response was when you told him about this. And she's like, he's a judge now. He understood. Of course he did. But then he's like, yes. And he leaves. So I don't know what that yes was about, why he was happy, because it's like, wait, what? So she's left wondering, like, did she say the right thing? So we'll see later. Knox moves his way up the stairs, and he's like, we've got this now. He's like, go get a hot meal in the cafeteria. We got this. So he reaches a barricade, and a raider sees him. He kind of mutters. He's like, what the actual fudge? So he turns to another. He's like, Radio Admerson, we need tactical defense equipment. And the guy's like, tactical defense? He's like, guns. We need guns. So dude takes a couple steps, and he radios Admerson. He's like, sir, there may be a situation brewing here. We need advanced tactical defense equipment. And then we see a message on a screen. It says, Diego, armed greaser gang headed up to barricade. Also saw a small gang headed away from stairs. One of the thugs had a rotary concrete saw, and it's signed Aunt Corrine. So the guy at the monitor is like, sir, my aunt on 135 just, and Edmondson's like, not now. So he goes on the radio. He's like, okay, so he's going to send like munitions down, and he like leaves. So Sims is at his new desk. He starts looking at his computer. Billings gets a knock. Nichols he's like, where's the patient? So then he sees his wife and child, and Billings like, honey? And he's like, honey, what are you doing? And she's like, Dr. Nichols could use my help. He's like, I told you it's not safe down here. And she's like, Paul, it's not safe anywhere. And then stupid Patrick's like, oh, this is a very touching family reunion, but maybe we could get the fudging bullet out. So Billings takes the baby so she can help. Sims knocks on the security door. The monitor guy, Diego, answers. And Sims like, why am I here? So Diego's like, Mechanical is massing for an assault on a barricade. He's like, they have weapons and armor. He's like, I'm sure Mr. Edmondson is aware. And Diego's like, he is, but he doesn't know what I know. We've been relying on listeners since the cameras below 120 went out. I don't trust him. Someone I do trust is my aunt. She's on 135, and she sent a message saying a bunch of down deepers were marching up with weapons. And Sim's like, didn't you already tell me that? And he's like, she said that there was a second group heading the other direction. They had weapons and a saw. My aunt is in construction, and she said it was a kind of saw they used to cut through concrete. And then Sims just turns and leaves. So down below, some cutting is happening. So someone cuts through a floor on a level. And they're like, clear. So Sims knocks on Bernard's door. He knocks again. He like kind of almost like forces the door open. Sorry to bother. And then he's like, what the fudge are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the mines. So Lucas is still there. He's like, Mayor Holland needed my help. He's like, with what? Some programming? Where is he? I don't know. And Sims just storms out. Camille's at her desk, and then she sees Sims walking. And Dr. Nichols pulls the bullet out. Sims talks to Camille out in the hall. She's like, you think they have a team cutting through the floor? He like nods. And she's like, and neither Edmondson and Bernard know? He like shakes his head. She's like, well, there's nothing wrong with letting people suffer their own mistakes. And he's like, as long as the mistakes don't endanger everyone else, including our son. She's like, you can't do anything. You're the judge now. He's like, I know. Besides, I was never a raider. So is that he like saying like she should do something? So someone signals and knocks, and above Edmondson like starts running down the stairs. He asks the raiders like what are you doing? What are they doing? And was like, well, we can't see. It sounds like they're drilling. He's like, yeah, I know what drilling sounds like, Derek. He's like, where are the guns? And they're like, just leaving the armory. So Dr. Nichols tells Patrick that they didn't get his lungs, so he's a lucky man. He's like, oh yeah, that's me, Mr. Lucky. So then Billings like, I held up my end of the deal, Mr. Kennedy. Let's talk. And he's like, you were being serious? I just wanted a bullet out. And Billings like, come on, Mr. Kennedy. Deputy Hank took time out of his busy day to hear what you have to say. And Patrick's like, well, I'm feeling a little woozy. What with the drugs and having a bullet dug out? So maybe tomorrow. So Kathleen looks over at Billings, and then he's like, bandage all good? And then she's like, I'll take her and take the baby. So then he's like, Dr. Nichols, I'd like a word with the patient. So you should probably go too, Hank. And Patrick's like, maybe you should say, taking all that time with everything. And Billings like, I'll fill him in. So Hank leaves. And he's like, whoopsie, looks like I made Daddy mad. And Billings like, not really. You're a criminal. I don't expect much, but I need what I need, which is you telling me what you said you were going to tell me. So he picks up a chair, slams it down, and like next to the bed. This gets Patrick's attention. He like kind of sits, and he's just like, almost has like his head in his hands. He's like, cuz if you don't, and he takes out his like walkie-talkie, I'll radio Judge Sims. He's like, what? He's like, that's right. He's a judge now. I'll tell him where you are, and who knows, maybe he'll put you back in that box, or worse. He's like, okay, you're not going to want to hear what I have to say. And Billings like, why? He's like, because it'll ruin your fudging life. It's like when Nichols was on the run, you happened to be near a computer when they all went dark. It's like, do you know why they went dark? And Billings like, it was a system reboot. That's what they said, but they say all kinds of poop. They went dark because Nichols had my friend Danny put something up on every computer in a silo for 10 seconds before they shut it down. And he's like, what'd he put up? I bet they rounded up everybody who saw it. Me and Danny, who knows what the heck they did to him. They gagged and bagged us so we couldn't tell anything to anybody.
It's like the page, only a million times more beautiful. I couldn't describe it if I fudging tried. And Billings like, where does Sims come into this? And Patrick's like, not long after Nichols gets sent out, Sims comes to me, wants to make a deal. I put on dirty clothes, head down to Greasetown, toss a firebomb at Hank's station. In return, he'd give me drugs, make me forget everything that happened to me the last 22 years. Obviously, he never intended to hold up his end. The magic for getting drugs would probably BS, but I didn't have a lot of options with the hood over my head. Now, let me ask you a question. Isn't there just a little piece of you that wishes I never told you that?
So I don't know if they're thinking that it's like gorgeous outside. And now he knows that. Anyways, so Bernard's in the morgue looking at Judge Meadows' body, and he's like, if our roles were switched, would you have done the same? What if I failed, Mary? 140 years of stability, and it could all end on my watch. I made the calculations. I planned for everything. Then events forced me to factor you into the calculation. He's got like tears. He's sobbing. He's like holding her hand. And for that, I'm truly sorry. The Raiders are setting up tactical formation. Shirley and the others are moving after making their hole. A Raider comes up to Adamson and asks, he's like, what are you doing? She says, it's going to be an ambush. They're coming up through the floor. So a bunch show themselves, and you hear, this is our level. And there's like cheers. Admin sees them because they're like up above, whatever. And he's like, over there. And then Knox yells, now. So then like a wench or whatever, the thing that was attached to the barricade, like pulls and yanks it. It falls down. Raider yells, they're going to pinch us. Admin yells, like, fall back. And Knox yells, pull. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, which way they're going, whatever. But, they got it attached. So they're running, and then they finally meet up at this level. And Adamson yells, like, stop. And the Raiders, like, kind of raise their weapons. And Knox steps forward and faces Adamson. He's like, you will kill 10 of us, but we will kill all of you and take the stairs. And Shirley's like, how about we make this level the new boundary? That work? Adamson like looks back at the Raiders behind him, and then it cuts to him in the TV, whatever, control room with Bernard. He's like, Mr. Mayor, it was an optimum, but they only got 10 floors. And Bernard's like, not optimum. What level is a new barricade? He's like, 120. And then Bernard's like, and what is down on level 122? Without looking at the map, anyone. What's below 122? And then some other guy at one of the councils like, lower mids farm. It's a farm level. Adamson kind of like gulps, and Bernard's like, we're trying to starve them into submission, and now they have a farm. So yeah, not optimum. Billings goes to Walker's door. She says that she heard there was some kind of battle on the stairs, and she's like, shouldn't she be there? And Billings like, I've been busy finding out what happened to Carla McLean. So she lets him in. She was arrested at the cafe on 70. And Walker's like, that's where I left her. Where's she now? And Billings like, people usually get transferred to us for processing, but Hank's checked in with every deputy station. None of them have her. So where is she? In a hospital? Sometimes when Raiders have a high-profile, high-risk suspect, they're taken into seclusion. They can't do that. Carla has health issues. She won't survive. Look, you're the sheriff. You can do something. I might be able to get her out, but only if I can clear her name. So please, what happened to Judge Meadows? Knox says to Shirley, hell of a plan today. And she's like, well, haven't you heard? I'm twice the mechanical you'll ever be. He's like, what idiot told you that? Because he said that. And she's like, which means twice the thinker, twice the engineer. He's like, see, this is why I don't give people compliments. They're like drinking booze, so she pours some more into, raises a toast into his glass. She's like, to teamwork. And he's like, to great partners. But then she pushes his hand down as he goes to drink it, and she starts kissing him. He kisses back. And then they kind of stop because someone comes in. Billings walks in. Knox like, we under arrest, Sheriff? He's like, Martha Walker has given me her account of what happened with Meadows, or at least what she says you told her. That you walked in and found the judge dead. You said Bernard Holland and Robert Sims were framing you. Would you swear on the pact that's true? And Shirley's like, every word. So he takes out his radio, kind of steps back. He's like, Sheriff Billings and Mayor Holland. Sheriff Billings and Mayor Holland. And then
Admonson, like, on the TV room, gives him walkie-talkie. He's like, speaking. Bernard's like, I've located the fugitives. He's like, excellent news, Sheriff. Thank you. Where are they? So he kind of hesitates, Billings, and he's like, I'm not revealing their location at this time. And Bernard's kind of like shocked. So Bernard's like, first, I need to open a full investigation into the events leading to the death of Judge Meadows, as well as a new investigation. And Bernard like snaps at Admonson and the others in the room. He's like, disable all radio communications in the silo now. So Billings continues, attack on the deputy station in the Down Deep, which cost 2 lives. And Bernard mutters, he's like, fudge me. He's like, I just lost the sheriff. And Billings like, Mayor? And there's no response. So the Knox is like, thank you. And Billings like, for what? I don't stand with the mayor or the judge or you. I stand with the law. So then later he sits at a table in the cafeteria with his wife, with Kathleen and the baby. She's like, Paul, are you okay? She's like, you did a very brave thing today. He's like, brave? Maybe. Stupid? Definitely. I doubt I'll be sheriff much longer. She's like, it wasn't stupid. It was the right thing. People will see that. He's like, I'm not sure it was right either. She's like, when was the last time you took your herbs? He's like, oh, I'm sorry, honey, I forgot. She's like, I'm not criticizing. And then she's like, can you pass me that glass of water? He's like, right, yeah. He picks it up and, holds it out to her. But then she pulls her hand away while his hand's extended out. He's like, what are you? And she's like, look. And his hand is steady as can be. And she's like, why do you think that is? He's like, you haven't taken your herbs in days. He's like, but I don't know what's changed. And she's like, maybe you have. Lucas and Bernard are at the computer. And Lucas is like, this is Quinn's code, but with the alphabet reversed and shifted 3 letters over. And Bernard's like, doesn't look like anything. It's gobbledygook. And Lucas is like, right, except here. There's like SILLO, so 2 L's. And Bernard's like, I doubt Salvador Quinn would spell silo wrong. And Lucas is like, I thought the same. So, okay, here's another iteration, still reversed, but shifted over 10. And you see ALLIE. And Bernard's like, Quinn's daughter's name was Allie. You might be onto something. And Lucas is like, right, except that none of the other words are coherent. And Bernard's like, well, this is far beyond a Caesar shift. This is sophisticated. It's a code within a code. In order to decipher it, you would have to. And he's like, what? You'd have to see the legacy. And Bernard gets up. And Lucas is like, legacy? He's like, I don't know what that is. And he comes back. He's like, stand up. Stand up. He's like, Lucas Kyle, I'm electing you to be my shadow. Please place your right hand on the pact. Do you accept? And he's like, yes. He's like, repeat after me. I, Lucas Kyle. So he's supposed to be in the mines. Now he's going to be a shadow. Walker looks at his old picture, like a drawing, whatever thing of her and McLean. There's a knock on the door. She's like, if you're a friend, come in. If not, go away. So it's Peter Nichols. He's like, I hope you still consider me a friend. And she's surprised. And she's like, it's been a long time. He's like, I wanted to thank you for taking care of her all these years. And she's like, it was her who took care of us. And Peter's like, one of the engineers told me you managed to have a different tape used for Juliet's cleaning. Is that true? She's like, yes. That's why she was able to walk out of sight? She just nods. Do you think she's still alive? And Walker's like, no. He's like, why give us false hope? I did it for her, Doctor. And for you and me and for everyone down here who knew and loved her. And yeah, some days I wanted to strangle her. I did it because I knew she wouldn't want any of us to watch her die in that hill. He's like, but you don't think she's still alive? I don't see how. Speaking of Juliet, what happened to her after she collapsed when she was alone in the other room after she found the helmet? She starts to wake up, and Solo's like, oh, hey, you're awake. Good. So her arm's like bandaged. She's like, you had an infection. It was a bad one. Nice to know those antibiotics worked. I made them all by myself not too long ago. And Juliet's like, I got a helmet. Where is it? I need to go. I need to get my suit on. He's like, yeah, about the suit. It's safe. You're going to get it back. First, I need you to fix that pump. And she's like, what? You said that if you could get power to the pump under the surface. And she's like, no, you could stop the water from rising. And she whispers, get me my suit. And he's like, all right, well, think of it as doing me a favor. Like, I saved your life, you saved mine, and then we'll be even. And she's like, even? He's like, yeah. She's like, you're one person. There's 10,000 fudging people. Yeah, 10,000 people that could die any day now, just like the people of this silo died. Look, you can waste time arguing with me. It's up to you. That's the end of the episode. So, I guess she's not headed back just yet, and she's not too happy about that. But she's alive, so she doesn't have like some whatever. So she's, at least there's that.
Okay, now the movie feature is Carry On. And I feel like there's a song, Carry On, whatever, and we're not going to get into it. So this is a Netflix movie. So as I mentioned earlier, there was nothing really that I wanted to see in the theater. I am curious. Maybe someday I'll watch Sonic 2 and Sonic 3. But yeah, this is not the week. So I watched Carry On because I love Taron Egerton. I think he's just a brilliant actor. And you got Jason Bateman in here, he's also really good. Some of you may know my daughter. So I come home Friday night, like late, and my wife and daughter are watching Carry On. And my wife's like, "Have you seen this?" I was like, "No, it just came out today." And I was like, "I wanted to watch it." So they watched it without me, of course. But she knew who Sophia Carson is. She's an American actress and singer. So she was on, I guess she was on Austin and Ally, which I never saw. I can't remember if my daughter ever watched that. But she was in that Descendants, Disney original Descendants. My daughter, I don't know if there are movies. I know Dove Cameron was in it. And I think there's like maybe 2 or 3. I don't think it was a series, but I know my daughter watched the first one. I remember. This is crazy. It's what's crazy about it is just how good of a movie it is, because you think it's like, oh, here we go, Netflix movie. You know, how great is that going to be? It's directed by Juan Collet Serra. He's a Spanish-American film director and producer. So he did House of Wax 2005. I never saw that. Orphan 2009, I think that's the movie I saw, and then The Shallows 2016. So it's interesting. Let's see, what's the score on this? Looks like it might be, I don't know if this is updated, 84%. That's kind of surprising that I think it would be higher than that. Okay, looking this up, yeah, this is what I don't understand. So it's at 84% by critics. The audience score is at a 58%. And this is the same, it's not the same audience, but with Kraven the Hunter last week, it's like, I think it was like a 17% by critics and then like a 73% or 70 something percent from the audience. So the audience liked Kraven the Hunter. Audience does not like this Carry On movie. It's a little silly, but that's okay. It's an action movie. They all are. You know, a lot of people are kind of comparing it to Die Hard because it does take place during the holiday season. You know, it's I think it's, I don't remember if it's Christmas Eve or not, but it takes place in LAX, which is, you know, kind of cool if you ever been there. It's like, oh, I've been there, or whatever. And people are traveling, so there's, you know, all these people going on, and Taron Egerton, so he works at TSA. And his girlfriend, she's like a manager, like whatever, another airline, you know, a flight, or not the desks, whatever. And so, you know, they're gonna, I think they're just girlfriend. I don't think they're married. I don't remember, but I don't know if it's not really a spoiler, but she finds out she's pregnant. So, you know, they're gonna start a life together and everything like that. But part of the thing is, he just works at TSA, you know, and he's not even like running the machines or anything like that. So she's kind of, as they're driving to work, she kind of nudges a little bit, like, you know, what are you going to do? Because, you know, he makes a comment before this, you know, so she's not like being like rude, like you need to do something, but she asks him like what he thinks and stuff like that, and he's like, well, I kind of, you know, pictured myself further along, you know, at this point, like he'd be more set with a career. And then she's like, well, why don't you apply to the police academy again? So apparently he applied and it didn't go through, or something happened, and they go into it later. So he gets to work, and then he kind of wants to step up. He ends up getting late because, you know, they work at different terminals, so, you know, he has to work, you know, cut through all the stuff, whatever. And there's like the supervisor, you know, gives this big orientation or whatever for the day, what they can expect, and with all the craziness, and you know, he misses it. And then on top of that, he's like, hey, I want to, you know, I'm low on a promotion. And his boss is like, you forget it. He's like, you're crazy. So, but then he's able to finagle things, switch with the guy. His buddy's like, hey, I'll switch, I'll do whatever, so he can work the machines. Because I guess that's a bigger deal than working the metal detectors, where you're actually screening the stuff and looking at what's going on and everything. So then, basically, long story short, as this is going on, of course, there's some bad things happening, because otherwise we wouldn't have much of a movie. But as he's running the machine, and then some guy with a little tray where you put your keys or your phone or whatever, which they don't really have those at the metal detector, because he put everything through the machine, so that doesn't make sense. But then he goes to Taron Egerton, he's like, this isn't mine. So there's like a AirPod, it's not an AirPod, it's like some other thing like that. So he takes it, and then I feel like I need to watch this part again, because okay, if you find a headphone thing, are you going to stick it in your ear just randomly? And because I never shared headphones with anyone. I wouldn't have a real problem with it if I knew the person. But the whole thing is is there earwax on it? And it's not like earwax. It's not like you're sticking up your nose and you've got boogers or anything like that. But he sticks this thing in his ear. He has no idea whose it is. So okay, he does that, and then Jason Bateman, his voice starts talking to him. So what it comes down to, he basically says that one of my associate's going to come through your line later in a bit, and you're going to let him go through. You're going to let his bag on there. And he's like, yeah, right, whatever. He's about to, but then he kind of, as he's doing this, because it wasn't supposed to be Taron Egerton on the machine. It was supposed to be his buddy, and they actually had guys at his house where his wife and twin daughters were there, and they were about to kidnap him or do something like that, so they could have leverage and get his friend to do this. So they kind of have to scramble. They figure out who he is. So there's a guy who's hacked into the camera, who is actually the doctor dude in the Penguin. I forget his name. Is it Julian? The dude that was working with Sophia in the Penguin. So he's hacked into the cameras. He kidnapped someone or whatever, and they're in this van. And so he's able to, he's just hacking into everything. So he sees I think he sees Taron Egerton's name badge or something like that. He looks up his record, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he eventually finds out that Taron Egerton is, with this other woman, Sophia Carson, and so then they send someone to his place, and they find out this stuff. And so they're feeding this information to Jason Bateman, so then they can use leverage. So he knows Taron Egerton's name, he knows his record, he knows where he went to high school, just all this information. And then they basically threatens his girlfriend, and it's like, okay, if you don't do this, then we're gonna kill her, and it just kind of goes from there. So then Taron Egerton, he's a good guy. He's like, what's in this suitcase? And Jason Bateman's like, don't worry about it. And and meanwhile, so Taron Egerton, he's not just your average. I don't want to say no knock against the TSA, but he's obviously, because he's the main character, he's got extra skills, because as he's listening to Jason Bateman talk, he's kind of trying to listen to the background. He's trying to pinpoint. So as he's talking, he's sitting there at his chair, in front of the machine, and he's looking around. He's trying to see, okay, who's on their phone? Who could it be? Is it that person? Is that person? There's someone they got kids. And no, it's not that one. And then that person's laughing at it. So he's trying to look at everyone, trying to see if he can figure out, because if the way he's looking at it is, because Jason Bateman's kind of made some comments about some stuff that he's doing or whatever. He's like, sit back down. So he obviously he knows that he got up or whatever. So he's trying to figure out. He's like, he's got to be within my line of vision, or he can see me at least. So I must be able to figure out where he's at. And then there's one point where he's crunching on something. Jason Bateman's eating, so he's trying to look out, trying to figure out who could it be and stuff like that. So he's got skills. And he's very aware of his surroundings, and obviously this is gonna pay off for him, because he's gonna have to really step up, and it just gets more and more intense. And that's the crazy thing about this, because when I saw the trailer, it's like, oh, this looks cool. I was like, I like Taron Egerton, I like Jason Bateman, of course I want to watch this. But as you're watching a movie, I was like, this is probably just gonna be a cheap. It looks like it could be a decent thrill or whatever. It starts getting like more and more intense. So it's like you're on the edge of your seat. It's like, holy crap, what's going? And yes, there are some moments where it's a little absurd and it's suspension of disbelief, whatever. I don't feel like it's too ridiculous. Some people might be like, oh, it's predictable, blah blah this or whatever like that. And this is where you just enjoy the movie. I feel like so many people, I don't know if they're up to, it's like, why do you have to be so negative and nitpick and just like watch the movie? It's one thing if you're a critic and you have to say like, oh, the what am I looking for? Not the continuity. Well, I guess you say the continuity. Like, oh, this doesn't work. Like the hairstyle is different, or the CG is bad, or there's a missing scene, or whatever. The lighting wasn't here, the sound wasn't good, or the story doesn't. Then if you want to analyze, like, oh, what are they doing here? This doesn't make sense. How could that happen? And I always look at it when you have like little things, like oh, they if it's like windy here, or they step out and they're like in another city, like, wait, that's not LA, that's somewhere else. But it's like, it's not necessarily like this is taking place in our world. It could be some alternate reality, alternate world where maybe the LA airport, and this doesn't happen here. I think I saw someone made a comment at Craven the Hunter or something like that. But maybe when you step foot outside, it looks like something else because it's a different, whatever. I just feel like, just enjoy the movie. And so I watched this. I watched this actually on a Saturday, like last Saturday. I could have almost squeezed it into last week's podcast. It would have been like too crazy. So, and plus I needed something for this week. But Saturday night, I just watched it. I just sat back and watched the movie, and I just enjoyed it. And even though I was watching it for the podcast, so I'm paying attention or anything like that, but I was kind of relaxed and just enjoying the movie at home and watching this. And it was a good movie. It's better than some other things that I've seen lately. And I really enjoyed it, and I thought, yes, it's kind of in the spirit of Die Hard, but not exactly. But it does have that kind of feel where he's trying to do this, and he can't raise the alarm to anyone. He's his girlfriend is at risk, and like other people get taken out. He tries doing some stuff discreetly, and it doesn't work out. So it's like, you don't mess with this guy. And looking on IMDb, they kind of give away like what's on the suitcase. I don't know if I should mention that, but it's something. It's serious business. Taron Egerton eventually, he does find out what's under, because he doesn't. Why is he letting this plane get on? Why is he letting the suitcase get on the plane? What is it? Is it a bomb? Is it drugs? What is? And if it's something just like drugs, and it's bad, but okay. But if it's a bomb, that's a different story. What the heck is it? And he's trying to find out, but Jason Bateman won't tell him right away. And but he does, like I said, eventually find out. And it's a crazy movie. It just gets more and more intense. And like I said, a little unbelievable, but I think it's good. There's a decent amount of action and so it's definitely 100% worth watching. I really recommend it, and it's maybe it's a little silly on some levels, but it was a good movie. So I mean, I don't think there's much more to say without giving I don't want to like spoil the whole movie or whatever like that. But I thought they did a good job with it. The budget was $47 million, which is kind of crazy because I mean I don't know if renting out you filming on locations. I mean, were they there? Was it a set? I don't know, but yeah. So I think they did a good job. And I think I saw like on Threads or somewhere where someone said that they actually saw it on a big screen because I think they knew the screenwriter or something like that. So they had like a private show. I don't think it actually played in theaters like how Netflix occasionally will release them, in theaters for a week just to get that theatrical release. But they said they watched it on a big screen, and I think it would be cool to see it. I wish I did see it. I don't know, like, is this blockbuster movie caliber on its own? I think it could do well because Taron Egerton is a name, and Jason Bateman is a name. So I think, but then you got the cost of distribution and all that. So I don't know, and this wouldn't be a good time to release it in theaters. Although no, it is a holiday movie. I don't know. So just watch the movie, and there's nothing more for me to say. It was just, they did a good job. It's not the best movie of the year. It's not, but it's good for what it's supposed to be. It delivers. So you should watch it, and you should watch. I can't say anything. I got no segue. You're not watching a podcast. You're listening to it. That's it. End of podcast. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. He is awesome. You could be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes of extra podcast entertainment every single week. I've been doing a bunch of, way too many maybe, what if comics from the late 70s, early 80s. I've been doing a few off my minds. I have another one. I keep saying I'm probably going to do it. But last week I went back to Amazing Spider-Man because before I was doing the Stan Lee, John Romita era, and so I wanted to jump back to that. So maybe more of that for a little bit, and then the off my mind coming up, whatever. But if you can't commit to monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or two. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. And again, on the Patreon, you can purchase some of the Off of My Mind podcast episodes if you want to support. It's like $3. If you're going to buy me a coffee, or you can buy me a podcast episode and help support. Every little bit helps. So that's going to be it for this week. Next week's movie. So next week is, next week in the United States, next week is Christmas. So, holiday shopping and things closing and all that stuff. The movie feature is going to be Nosferatu. I don't really know a whole lot about this. I did see Nicholas Hoult on the Graham Norton show where he talked a little bit about that. But there's a few different actors in this. So I'm really curious to see, I'm not really sure what the angle of this, but I don't think it's just necessarily retelling. Maybe it is. It's Nosferatu. So I'm curious to see how that is. And then with TV, Cobra Kai is done now, so we should have Silo, Skeleton Crew, and Creature Commandos, and comics. But the important thing is, so yes, even though it is the holidays, my goal is to always have a podcast every single week, just in case you have any downtime. If you need something to do in between whatever, you need a distraction, I will be here for you every single week. That is my goal. I've been doing this since 2017. I haven't missed a week yet, so I'm very proud of that achievement. So like I said, you can't always depend on things in life, but hopefully you can depend on me every week to give you an episode so you can hear me ramble on about whatever. But I hope you are doing well. A lot of times the holidays can be hard, they can be sad, they can be depressing. I hope I am here for you. I'm here to offer what little entertainment I can. Hopefully this is a lot of entertainment, but I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you have people, to talk to and hang out with or whatever. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.